Hello, everybody. This is Vinnieart. I'm the co-creator of Through the Woods, co-creator on Ghostly Manor on Howling Hill. I'm the creator of City of Venus, which is still live right now on Indiegogo. I'll be showing that campaign a little bit later. But tonight we have on a guest, Jason Lewis, and we also have Red Gaze. He just popped in. But Jason, tell us about yourself and the current project you're working on.
Um, I'm Jason Lewis. I'm a colorist. I've been coloring for 10, 12 years now professionally. I mean, that's my entire livelihood is coloring comic books and the occasional, t-shirt, album cover, stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, my most recent project I finished up with was Vestige, which was written by Gat Handzone, drawn by Donald DeLay, which I'm going to assume most people here, probably that's how you would know me. Before that, I've worked for about every major company, mainly kind of on lower kind of tier, kind of licensed books. Like I've done Scooby-Doo, I've done Ben 10, I've done Star Trek, I've done Mars Attacks. I did a really interesting a book that was a adaptation of the movie Drive, or actually the book that Drive was based on. I remastered old comics from Marvel for about 3 years, which I love doing. It kind of didn't end up so well, but at the time it was great. So yeah, it's I'm kind of new to the YouTube side of Comicton and this whole thing. So that's me.
Awesome, man. I just want to say a real quick hello to the chat. James Hayes, he's always dropping links. He's supporting like crazy. So is where are we? Ooh, I lost my place. Sorry, guys. Gaming and whatnot. Not Joe Frago. He's always around. We got Red Gaze is in the house. We got Nella. This conversation is going to be kind of about comics, the work Jason's been doing, a little bit about CG, why we're all kind of here, and what's kind of going on with comics at the moment. Red, if you want to say a quick hello.
What's up? What's up? How's everything going? Jason, how you doing?
Good, man. I kind of feel like you're overpowering us with your large glowing red eye.
Sorry about that. Is that better? You feel more comfortable?
I mean, I don't know if it's better, but it was just kind of funny. It was like little avatar, huge avatar.
Yeah,
but no, it's nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you too.
Hey, Vinny, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, man.
So you were lead designer at McFarlane Toys, right?
Yeah.
About what years were those?
2000 to around 2002. Like most of the product and stuff that I worked on were all coming out around that time.
Okay, yeah, because I remember back in the day, like when that first hit, I bought so many Spawn toys that I have no use for right now. But I couldn't wait to get them when I was a kid. I was going to say, just on that front, a couple of years ago, I got this call from my mom, and she was like, "Hey, do you know a guy named Todd McFarlane?" And I'm like, "No, but I know you're talking about." She's like, "Yeah, I saw him on some morning show, and you ought to email him and ask him for a job." And I'm kind of like, "Yeah, I really just can't email Todd." I mean, she just thinks I know everybody. Like I could just email. And she's like, "Yeah, ask him for a job." I was like, "I'm pretty sure Todd has he doesn't do a lot of comics. I'm pretty sure he already has a color." She's like, No, I mean, like a job for his toy company. I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, what would I don't, would I hand color toys?" But it was kind of a weird conversation where she's really just like, come on, just email him. I'm sure, he seems like a cool guy. I'm like, no, he's definitely a cool guy. It was just kind of like, I just can't email. I mean, I'd love to be able to email Todd and be like, "Hey, Todd, what's up? Give me some money." But
yeah,
it's just kind of.
It's definitely funny, man, because being an artist most of my life too, it was the same thing. Oh, you could draw. Oh, why don't you work? Why don't you work at Disney? That's what I got like in the beginning years. Then it was it was the comic book side. Oh, why don't you just start working for Marvel? Because that's just how it works, right? Out of nowhere.
Hey, just go do it. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I did it.
Yeah.
I mean, my first job making money was at Marvel. And let me tell you guys this: if you live in a city like Portland, like I did, where there's a lot of like people struggling to break in, one thing they don't want to hear is some dude who just moved there who works full time for Marvel.
Oh yeah,
they fucking hate you.
Trust me, I got that shit in New Jersey when I started working for Todd.
Yeah.
Because I came straight out of high school, and I got the job working there, and within a couple of months, I just became lead designer, kind of almost by like default as well. Because
Well, yeah, I mean, I was 30, so I wasn't exactly,
yeah,
a young dude. But yeah, it was like I'd lived in Portland for like not even 2 years, and it was kind of like I went from that guy that like didn't seem to have a job and was like,
Mhm.
like people were like buying coffee for to like working for Marvel, and people were just like, well, like if you get checks with Spider-Man on them, you will talk to every dude who works in that bank.
Oh yeah,
Like you'll like every single dude will come up to you and be like, "Hey man, what do you do?" It's like, "Oh, I color comics." "Oh, you go to college for that?" "Yeah, yeah, yeah." "Ah, is it cool?" "Oh yeah, it's definitely cool."
yeah.
"Oh, I mean, do they hire people to like make up characters?" "No, that's not a real job." Like I get asked that a lot. "Man, do they ever hire guys just to make up characters?" Like, no, they don't. There was a guy named Jack Kirby who had that job in the '60s, and they're good. Like they're still using
Exactly.
those characters.
Right. Or the ones who do get those jobs are the writers and artists who've been there for a very long time. And, we got a new storyline. We're going to design these characters and we need a new look or whatever. But then at that point, you're signing special contracts and shit because that's just how Marvel operates as well.
Or they're just hoping that like you are too dumb and to say anything. Like, "Oh yeah, here's this new character. Just you'll do right eventually, right, guys?" Like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah. They're horrible. From what I understand, DC is better. They actually do help people, or if you help create something, you do get a percentage in points and stuff.
I
Mar,
mean, I hear that's really inconsistent.
yeah. Well, it depends. I know more recently things are way different and they're tougher all around. But I know a little bit further back, there was a point where they were, if you created something, that you would get a piece or this or that. But again, it depends how high you're up on the food chain. Because
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, yeah, no, it's a very dirty business. A lot of people who are listening now, they've heard a lot of my stories before too. I was supposed to work on a Spider-Man title. Joe Quesada screwed me out of that job. I'm very vocal about that.
Very.
Very well, yeah, because I came into there was a couple of encounters with Joe where he fucked me or he took credit for things that I designed. It was a whole thing, but yeah, it's disgusting, and including that he traced over my work. He traced over samples
Oh
that
wow.
were that they were handed to him from Joe Kubert. Joe Kubert said, "Hire this guy. Here's his work," and Joe Quesada traced over my drawings. And said,
Did you go to Kubert school?
"Nope."
Oh,
I
okay.
ran into him in Midtown Comics when I was living there,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, had a great conversation. I had some of my work with me. He took it. He goes, "Yeah, we're gonna get you a job. Like, you're a great kid. Yeah, well, let's do this." And yep, and that's how it went.
I will say, in all fairness, I mean, it's dirty across the board. It's not like even like smaller companies like I know IDW like does a lot of creator owned stuff, but even then, like I believe for a time they may still. I mean, they may not have this now, but they had a deal with Paramount where they had like rights of first refusal.
Hmm.
So even if you like owned your own IP and you were doing a book through IDW, like I mean, Paramount pretty much could sit on your project or not. So I mean, you even though you owned your character, I mean, you couldn't just go sell it to like whatever movie studio or whatnot.
Right.
And I think all this, I mean, and that's just and IDW is not the only one who does it. I think all the kind of like second tier, third tier companies have some kind of deal with some kind of movie studio. I mean, Valiant, I believe, has a deal with some kind of movie studio. I mean, they probably all do. So yeah, I mean, the reason that DC and Marvel are the biggest comic book companies is because they own the most IP. I mean,
Oh, I
hands
know
down,
that.
that's it. I
Oh,
mean,
trust me, I definitely know that. I think I've had encounters with almost every comic book company you can imagine. Dealings with people, other ones who tried to screw me over as well or underpay me. When the president of one of the companies offered me a certain number, then someone underneath them goes, "Well, we can't afford that." I've had every stupid thing you could imagine. I've had top artists lie in my face or say that I could use their name to get work, which I hate doing. I only tried doing that once, and it came back at me, and the person had no spine, no backbone whatsoever. A very famous painter. He did a lot of stuff for DC, and he's currently working on some covers for Marvel. It's this is how they are. They're just very dirty people. That's why I decided, like, I was doing freelance work for Hollywood and design work for all different places. But my heart is in comics. That's what I do. I love to tell stories. I love to put my heart and soul into everything that I'm doing. Fans have seen that. And that's why I gravitated towards CG and the independent scene, because I rather do it myself. You know, I don't have to deal with these morons, these snakes. You know, and if I come across good people, then yeah, I'd like to work with the good people here and there. But yeah, for the most part, I try to avoid all those scumbags, because I know how the business is. I know how it's run. Even on the toy side of it, I've seen how people get screwed over. Um, not to say anything bad about Todd. It's just some of the people he did hire, who kind of ran the studios. They weren't after everyone's interest. They just kind of lured people there under false pretenses, just to get them trapped in a job, right?
Yeah.
And it was almost like slave labor, it felt like, for some of those guys, because they had families and stuff at the time. Again, I came right out of high school, so I didn't have, kids and stuff like that to worry about. But seeing how people are treated, when I see someone being treated like shit, I'll stand up for them.
Yeah, I mean, like when I was a kid, like I'm about the age where I really remember like the image guys, like Todd and everybody, and doing interviews about how they're breaking away from the mainstream comics because they're getting screwed over and whatnot. And as a kid, like you just don't understand that. Like you're just like, man, I love Todd doing Spider-Man. I want him to do more Spider-Man. Like what's the big deal? And like it seems like when you're like looking on the outside, I mean, it seems like people like Todd and like Alan Moore especially just seem ungrateful. Like they're the top of an industry and like they just seem like they just don't give a shit. And it comes off kind of weird. But like when you work in the industry for a while, I mean, you understand like someone like Alan Moore a lot better. I mean, the thing is, like when Alan Moore was working, I mean, you worked at Marvel, you worked at DC, and that was it. I mean, there was nowhere to go above that.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of like, and I mean, like, and if you're someone like Alan Moore who takes really hard stances on things, I mean, to basically say you're never working with DC or Marvel again in like the 80s, I was pretty much saying I'm done with comics. Like I'm exiling myself from this career. I mean, in a couple of years it got a little better, but even then, I mean, like if you were at Marvel or DC, you were maybe working at like Tops or Valiant. I mean, it was really hard to get work back in the day. So yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of weird because when I talk to people about like comics, like I have to put on a kind of a brave face because I mean I'll be talking at these like little conventions I do kind of like in my kind of neck of the woods and I'll be talking to some young kids and like I mean I don't want to be that guy who's just like crushing their dreams, like it's the worst thing ever, I've ruined my entire life, this was all a mistake. I've actually tried to talk to people and they get mad at me. They're like, well, I work at blah blah blah, I serve coffee, what are you complaining about, you've got a dream job. It's like, oh, I it's like it's a nightmare sometimes.
There's always a jealousy factor when people first hear it,
Yeah, it's like, and people who are coming up, they're like, get out of the way, old man. I'll do your job. It's like, okay, buddy, let's see how well you like this. What happens to you?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Do you guys you familiar with the band Megadeth?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember when I was a kid, I saw Dave Mustaine on like MTV News or whatever, and they're like, hey, Dave, what advice do you have for all the young metalheads out there who, want to start a band? And he was like, don't quit, do something else. And I remember at the time thinking like, man, Dave Mustaine's an asshole. I mean, he should get over this Metallica thing, like it came off as like, I don't even attempt to be cool like I am. But like, as you get older and especially, learning more about, the music business and whatnot, you're like, oh no, Dave's right. I mean, it sucks for him and he's successful at this,
because he was part of the biggest band in the world at the time, and then he got kicked to the side, and then he built up his own. But well, and that's the thing too, a lot of people, they hold a lot of piss and vinegar in them as well, if they're in the industry or they think they can almost get a job like that, and then whatever happens and they're kicked to the curb. There's so many stories like that, and it's funny too, because then the people in power, they try to flip it though as well. If you've noticed, Marvel and DC, they love doing that. They love trying to say things like that people are just bitter. But there's always two sides of a story, obviously. But there's also a track record. And Marvel and DC, they're kind of known for screwing over people. Well,
I mean, the comic business, I mean, it's built on this. I mean, read any history of comics, like read, what is it, Marvel, The Untold Story? And again, it's not just Marvel doing this. And Marvel, sometimes is even the worst at this. Another good book is The 10 Cent Plague, which is kind of about the era between the Silver Age and the golden age, which was actually when comics were the dominant form of media. I mean, like nothing was movies, nothing was, had as widespread a reach as comics.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's an industry just built on that. I mean, it's like I said, the reason Marvel and DC are huge is because they own all this IP. I mean, like the next biggest one might be Valiant, but like your IDWs, your Dynamites, all your smaller your Booms, it's either creator owned or they're licensing. Dark Horse, I guess, probably is the most famous of that. But I mean, like I think Dark Horse owns some IP, but almost all these companies own no IP. So I mean, that's why Marvel and DC dominate.
That's what they're all trying to do. I mean, and it's not just in comics. Everyone's trying to grow a new IP in hopes for movie deals. And that's also what's kind of destroying most of the comic industry as well, because they see the success of the big two, and they think, that's where it's at. But if you go in the comic shops, people hate what's going on. They hate this overly pushed feminist view or SJW view. I mean, I don't even like saying SJW either. It's one of those things
I feel SJW. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those things that kind of always annoyed me. But if you look at everything, that is what they're doing. They're trying to cater to an audience who they're not picking up books. They're not spending money. It's just to say, oh, we have more lesbians in here. We have this or that. And to fill a quota isn't telling a story. It's not about characters. They don't give a shit what the fuck they're doing with all of these characters that have been around for 60 plus years. And it's ridiculous. And that's why I think people are kind of revolting against it. Fans are curious. They're not buying. And they rather go to what new people are doing.
Okay,
people like the others in the indie scene. You know what I mean?
I differ on the CG argument about this in a way. I'll explain, but let me say something real quick.
Yeah.
One of the things about comics is not stealing IP, not owning your own IP is actually one of the reasons why comics work. If you think about every major comic character, like the version of that character that like was fully realized is almost never under the original creator, right?
Yeah.
Like Lin Wein created Wolverine, but the Wolverine you think of was written by Chris Claremont.
Mm-hmm.
The Batman you think of was probably either Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil or Frank Miller. I mean, right. Spider-Man was way better under like Roy Thomas. I mean, across the board, it's like, I mean, Deadpool is probably the biggest one. Deadpool was just another character that Liefeld came up with, but Joe Casey's the one who made him the third wall breaking. Because I think the original idea was like, this character is just a joke. I'm just going to do whatever. I mean, maybe the only exception I can think of is Harley Quinn, but like almost every other comic character was realized under different IP. So that's kind of the one danger where it's like, I mean, if you have control of your own IP, it's really hard for your like character to like grow. Really, I mean, it's like I said, most comic characters. There's another guy who came along who saw something different in that character than like often the original creator did, and breathed life into it. So that's kind of one of the weird side effects of like basically screwing creators out of like owning their own creations. Is like it kind of works out better for like pop culture as a whole.
Yeah,
but I mean that's. Let me get on this the CG thing real quick. And again, all the people who hated me during the war campaign stream, if anybody saw that, you're probably not gonna like me more. The war campaign stream, I kind of felt. I'm sorry.
Hating on you.
I kind of felt like in the war campaign stream, if anyone saw that a couple days ago, like it was kind of like those really old clips you see on YouTube of like James Brown whacked out on cocaine and some like poor journalist is trying to interview him. I mean, like I'm the journalist and war campaign is like James Brown on coke. I mean, like the reason those videos are on YouTube isn't because the journalist did a great job at asking questions.
Again, like Gat saying, they don't hate you, man. They don't.
Gat doesn't hate me. I came over better. I rewatched it and because I couldn't see the chat from the way I was kind of linked into the stream, but I did better than I thought I did. But like, yeah, I just imagine all these guys I'm just going to have pictures of me with dicks all over my face.
No. The one thing you got to keep in mind with War Campaign, they like to break balls, and so do the audience. So
yeah, I mean,
they're all just giving you shit, man.
I mean, I'm big enough in the industry. Well, okay, I'm small enough in the industry where like I can't call up like Gail Simone and go, "Hey, Gail, you want to go get a beer after this convention and hang out?" She'll never, respond to me. But I am big enough where if like she hears I'm talking shit about it on a live stream, she'll get hold of me directly and tell me to fucking quit it. You know, so I'm that weird thing where like, I mean, they don't know any of these people, and I don't know any of these people well, but like I've talked to Kwanzaa, like, or sorry, Kwanzaa, sorry, Kwanzaa, but it's like if they've never actually, really, besides maybe, throwing some tweets back and forth. I mean, they don't. I mean, he's not like a real person. I think to a lot of people, he's just this weird caricature. Like that voice that they were doing. So it's I'm in this weird place where it's like I will definitely hear from these people directly, about that if I talk shit. So I was there's a couple times like, I don't know what you want me to say. This person's not wrong to me. I don't I don't have anything funny to really. I mean, again, Pando doesn't like Gale. I mean, but Gale has people have wronged me way more than Gale has. But before I forget. When I hear the term SJW, like I kind of feel like it's almost like the same term as like feminazi, where like if someone starts saying that, usually whoever comes next, I'm not going to want to hear too much. You're like, oh no, here we go. Although social justice warrior is a very very certain kind of person, and that person is different than someone who's interested in social justice. But
it went past an extreme, and it's just another label. It's something stupid.
But I think
everyone knows what's going on. They know what they're trying to push and cram down everyone's throat.
But I think mostly that discussion is a distraction from a lot of like more serious issues. Okay, so there's a thing where like people are like, oh, they're I'm sorry, I just got distracted by a Donnie Thumbfist. I'm like, who the. But so people talk about they're hiring like all these. We're hiring more diverse people. It's like you're hiring more diverse people cheaper. Like they're not hiring all these new people because they're really. I mean, they make it sound like, oh no, we're doing it because we're giving the underdog a chance. We're giving all these people of color or people of different sexual orientations or different genders like a boost in the industry. And what they're really doing is hiring them for much less money than the veteran creators that they're pushing out. So it's like,
so they're contributing to the wage gap is what you're saying.
It's what they're doing, but they're doing it under like a cover of like, oh no, we're hiring more women. What, you don't like women? It's like, I mean, well, are you hiring them for the same amount of money as the guy who was coloring this book 3 years ago? Oh, you're not? Then you're not really helping anybody. I mean, so that's the thing. And I feel a lot of like, when people talk about like the political agenda in comics, it's just bad writing. Like I'm in my early 40s. Are you guys around that age, or you're roughly? Right. Do you remember sitcoms in the 80s? Yeah. Do you remember when every sitcom had like the very special episode where like Mr. Belvedere tackled AIDS?
Yeah.
Like, do you remember that shit? And like a Funny or Die has a whole series just making fun of those. But like all those bullshit sitcoms of like the 80s, they were going, we're just not a bullshit sitcom. We're going to do something socially relevant. We're going to talk about issues. We're going to do something important, so we're just not bullshit.
Like Our House and Diabetes.
I mean, every fucking thing. I mean, go watch the Mr. Belvedere's AIDS one. Like, it's insane. Like the tone deafness of that, or like, the different strokes about like molestation. It's like, or any of the Seventh Heaven ones about like gangs and drugs, where like the whitest people you've ever seen are now involved in these like street gangs. Yeah. But it's the same thing. It's like they're trying to do some socially relevant and important, and they're just bad writers, and they're just fucking up. So I don't see like a lot of these writers, these books now, like trying to like pull one over, like, oh, the kids, they got to know about how bad Trump is. It's like they're trying to like do what Grant Morrison calls the relevance movement, where they're like, hey, you're getting older and you're thinking about social issues. Well, here's where, the example I use on War Campaign. Here's the issue where Spider-Man fights the AIDS virus like it's the T-1000. And you're like, oh, this doesn't work at all. This is just dumb. So I think that's what it is. I mean, people are just trying to be more like they're trying to like show how important they are as a writer. And it's just stupid. Like it just comes off bad. I mean, it's so I don't. And again,
that's the thing. There's a lot of ego in place at these companies. And it's a lot of the time it's because of this old bad blood that's in there. And they're going with what's going on right now with all of culture. So
you're talking about the AIDS blood?
The AIDS blood. This is what they have to do. They have to make things more geared towards the feminist view or whatever specific thing it is to change it up. Or like Marvel, we need more of these younger characters that are girls are going to want to attach themselves to, and that's not working. And they're poisoning the whole industry with that. They're not doing like its own little subdivision. But as you said, it comes down to bad writing. If it's good writing, they could actually put some of those characters in and it could work in a certain way. But don't destroy the old characters to do it. And that's what a lot of that argument is, and a lot of what's going on. So,
well, like, and again, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vinny.
I was going to say the thing with like the new IPs and that what other people are creating right now. It's not just that. It's if you see something that's kind of like either on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and it's creators who have had a hard time and they've decided they want to do their own thing and they're putting in their all their blood, sweat, and tears into it. Fans know it's going to be a good product, or or just looking at the quality or hearing the story, it entices them because they see something brand new. It's not a regurgitation of like a Spider-Man story. I mean, he's been around for over 60 years. How many times could you tell the same stories over and over? And now we want to go super young and more diverse. And it's stupid. They're bastardizing everything. It's not working. But people want to see the new shit. They want to see the new cool projects. What's so-and-so working on? Something like what Ethan did with Cyberfrog. I mean, it's pretty amazing. A character like that he took out from the 90s, he brought back. And look at the numbers that came in. It's something that they can't deny. And that's why they keep trying to fight anyone who's going indie, anyone who's going CG. They try to fight them tooth and nail because they see how the numbers can fluctuate. They see that fans want the new thing. They don't want what's been happening or where the industry's headed towards now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think this is a few things. Like, I don't always agree that it's like a political agenda. I mean, I think bad writing really is like the big problem. I mean, and it's like bad characterization, bad writing. Yeah, I mean, like, again, like, people are always like, I saw the Frank Miller thing pop up. It's like, yeah, like comics have always been SJW. It's like, yeah, I bet if you sat down and talked to Kirby about what he thinks about socialism, he would not really be down with, the current term of socialism.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I kind of feel like a lot of it's just a smokescreen. I feel it's like, and I kind of feel like sometimes that a lot of the big CG people, they're kind of attacking like the wrong people. Like if you like a few months ago, there's that thing where Cynic Race wrote about his experience writing like the Gay Iceman comic. Okay. You guys familiar with that? I mean, Cynic Race, again, he's one of those guys, like, I've always heard good things about Cynic Race as a person and people who worked with him on the indie projects.
I gotta say, the things I've read about him, he doesn't seem terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely, like, got his own, like, kind of, he definitely would rather, be writing comics about the gay experience. I mean, he wrote that one comic about all the weird dicks he sucked, which I think is I think it's actually the title of the book, like the 9 weirdest dicks that I've sucked.
That's weird. I better change my project.
Yeah, go for the 10 weirdest dicks I sucked. Like, take that, Cynic Race. But no, I mean, like, if you read that thing that he wrote, I mean, he didn't create the gay version of Iceman. And it wasn't even his idea to do a book. It was like they were going to do a book and they hired him to write it. And again, that kind of makes sense in a way where it's like, if you want to write, like, if you want to attract, like, the gay audience, hire the gay writer. I mean, it kind of seems like maybe this guy knows something we don't. But the whole thing is like, so he gets attacked for Gay Iceman. And I would say that on one hand, it's his fault for not writing a more engaging story, right? I mean, like, he could have the right writer could have taken that concept and written like a really amazing, engaging comic that would appeal to everybody. Like, you could have done that. Like, it's just, he just didn't do it, so, I mean, yeah, it's his fault for not maybe doing the best job.
I got to interject over here. I'm sorry. You don't take a character who's been established for as many years as Iceman and then just say, all right, we're going to make him gay. But you know what? Now we need to have a gay writer write him.
Yeah, I mean,
the whole logic behind that is total shit.
It is.
Well, if you want a gay character, create a new fucking character. You're Marvel. People are going to buy it if that's what you're going on. You know what I mean?
Well, there's no incentive for someone like Cinna to create an entirely new character and give it to Marvel. Like, and
here's the other thing then. That means shit does have to change from editorial contracts, all that shit. Because right now, all these characters that are all over fucking the movies, their IP that's being sold all over the place, toys, merchandise, you name it, they've been established from other creators. They created those. Exactly. And Marvel, as a group, as a company, they're raping these characters inside and out, including creators who fucking created them. Now, if they change their contracts and change their deals, because I was in contact with the guy who worked on Ghost Rider, and I heard about that stuff, what happened with the lawsuit. They didn't care if he died with Gary. They didn't care about any of that shit. Now, that's somebody who should have been taken care of properly, not sued, not screwed over. And in his last days, that's how he had to die. Fuck Marvel for that. Fuck them. That's evil.
But going back on Cinna, like if Cinna had a really good idea for like a gay superhero, he would keep it for himself and put it in his own indie book that he'd own. Like there's no incentive for him to like, have Marvel publish that.
Well, that's the whole problem. There should be.
Yeah, there should be, but there isn't. I mean, and that's why you're seeing like them kind of like regurgitate these characters because they're not getting like the last two characters that have any kind of like real like lasting kind of like impression in comics are Harley Quinn and Deadpool, both created in the 90s. Yeah. Like, I mean, people are not creating new tentpole characters because there's no incentive. I mean, you don't want to be Bill Mantlo.
They kind of changed Iceman into a tentpole character.
Well, yeah, but getting back on Iceman, like, so if you read that thing, he was not like the one who made Iceman gay. He was not the one who put him in a miniseries. He's the one who got hired to do it. And my problem with some people in CG who criticize him is they seem to attack just Cinna and not the people who basically got the ball rolling on this. Like, another example is like a lot of people attack Mags Visaggio because they say that she's getting work that she doesn't have the ability or the experience to do. And the thing is, if you just keep attacking Mags, you might succeed in getting rid of Mags, but the environment that caused this will just find a new Mags. Like it's not her fault for taking these assignments. I mean, no one's going to turn down these assignments. And even then it's like, I mean, what really has she done that anyone gives a fuck about?
Well, listen, all right. I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for what I've seen and how things are being handled. Now, to me personally, I don't care one way or the other about whatever creator it is. If they're hired to do a job and they're doing the job, fine. My issue is don't hire these people to fill a fucking quota because you're hurting rather than helping this industry.
I don't disagree, but I think the problem is people are getting mad at the people who are filling the quota. Well, again, like the creators, not the people who are doing the hiring. I think if everyone would turn their attention towards the people in editorial who are causing the real problems that we all don't like, and not, I mean, because I think too many people are attacking these creators who are like, look, I write crazy gay comics. I mean, you've seen what I do. I write comics about sucking dick. Like they hired me. So again, it's like I see too many people in CG, in my opinion, attacking the creators because the creators are a little bit more out front. Where really who they should be criticizing is the editorial. Well, and I've told people, like, just look at any book you don't like. Right. Tweet politely at the editors and go, hey, I don't like this book. I don't like what you're doing to this character, because they're the ones who are approving it. I mean, you've worked in comics. I mean, like the amount of nitpicking bullshit that I've had to change in comics, like some background characters got the wrong color shirt. I mean, it's like, no, you guys, like you guys are reading these comics. They're not going out under your nose. I mean, again, I think if CG would bring like the problem to the editorial, not so much the creators, I think that's where the change would happen.
All right,
because these okay,
I got to put a pin in this for a minute.
Okay,
see, and that's where the thing is too. I agree with what you're saying too on a lot of stuff, but at the same time, it's these people who are extra vocal who are also fighting with fans and saying fuck fans. Correct. Those are the sons of bitches that I could see why they're being attacked. Because I'm sorry, you don't do that. You do not do that. You don't try to shit on your fan base because they don't like what you're doing, what you're producing. And that's the other thing too. I've been saying it for years. Editorial has to be cleaned out. There are nothing but snakes in there and fucking creeps. And it reflects on who they're hiring, where they're going with it. I mean, I'm sure, like, I've never read a Meg's book because I had no interest in whatever story she was telling, right? I don't know if this person's a good writer or a bad writer, because I just, as a fan, I wasn't gravitated. I didn't care. I don't want to read about whatever she was writing. You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to. You should keep trying to make the fan base who are there happy, and then slowly start to bring in more new readers. But by trying to piss off all the old fans to have these other new stories and these other new writers and artists come in, and it's all watered down or really bad, like you said, bad writing, bad artwork, where's the industry going? It's going in the toilet. It's been going in the toilet.
No,
You
no,
know?
exactly. Like
And
the industry right now believes IP is king, and they can just hire whoever to like write and draw these things. But you know,
Exactly.
like
That's the
people will
problem.
read, you know, Spider-Man no matter who writes and draws Spider-Man. So let's save money on the people who write and draw Spider-Man. You know, it's and they're kind of like again, if you're making a cheaper and cheaper product, I mean, and you're charging more and more for it, I mean,
Hold,
that's why you're losing fans.
hold on just for a sec though. But
Okay.
here's the other reason why I'm keeping Hardboiled Entertainment thing his message up, because he's also brought up Zoe Quinn, who drove a man to suicide. Now, as a company, I would keep away from a devil like that. But they embraced her and pulled her in because she was fighting with CG, or she was fighting with the people that they don't like what they're doing. It's like almost like if what Image was starting and they did something similar. There was some creep who came out of nowhere who started fighting like, you know, like cats and dogs with them, and trying to throw them under the bus. So call them Nazis. Then Marvel decides, you know, we're going to hire that person because they hate the same people we hate. Get the fuck
yeah,
out of here. And
well,
that's going to make them a good writer? That's going to, no, that's shit.
See,
and that's just it, and that's the point I was actually going to make. Vinny already made it. Jason, to use your two examples, I haven't personally seen a whole lot of people talking shit on Senna, and I haven't really talked any shit on him myself because he's not an asshole. He's not a vocal asshole.
Yeah.
Whereas Megs, on the other hand, absolutely is, and you know, brings a lot of shit on herself.
Well, I mean, again, like I've known a few people work with Mags, and kind of behind the scenes, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about Mags. All the people I know who've worked with her, I mean, say she's great, she's nice. I've had a couple interactions with her on Twitter. She's been nice to me. I mean, again, I've seen her say some dumb things on Twitter, so I'm definitely not gonna, you know, like defend that. I mean, a lot of things like, I would say like a lot of stuff that I think CG gets wrong is like they attribute malice and conspiracy to like things that are really just the products of idiocy. Like, I mean, like Twitter's a big problem. Okay, we're talking about Zoe Quinn. Now, I'm not really going to touch, you know, a lot of Zoe Quinn because, you know, that's a whole.
You might end up killing yourself.
Yeah, that's a whole road to go down. But like, the reason they hire Zoe Quinn or someone like Zoe Quinn is because they see her on Twitter and they see that she has like 10,000 Twitter followers and they think she has 10,000 fans, right? Like that's the whole that's one of the big problems with editorial right now is like they're too into Twitter. Like I've talked to writers all the time who lose gigs based on their Twitter followers.
Yep.
Like there'll be two writers going up for like a, you know, like a job, you know, like just an example, like I'm going to write, you know, let's say like Batman, and like I'm one of two writers, and like the other writer, I've got, you know, like I don't even have, I think I have like maybe 1,400 or less than 1,400 like followers on Twitter now, and some guy who has 1,600 gets the job because they think he has more fans and is better at self-promotion than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that happens. But like, I mean, someone like Zoe, she has a lot of fans, but there's no like buy-in to that. I mean, like if you just, you know, click follow Zoe Quinn because you are into her, you know, feminist, you know, musings or feel bad about how she got treated during Gamergate or whatever. I mean, there's no like, you just clicked like, I mean, you may have mute her directly afterwards. I mean, like there's no guarantee that like you liking her tweets or whatnot is going to make you go into the comic store and buy a comic that she wrote.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's the thing is like they see her and they think that she's going to bring all these fans over, and like it's, you know, it just doesn't happen. Like it's you know, it's like you don't want to, like if you're buying a comic, and I'm going to assume everyone listening to this agrees, like you want to read like a comic from the best writer they could get, not the guy on Twitter who makes the most like dunks on Trump.
Yeah, see, like I said, I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself. And yeah, I don't applaud what everyone does. But the thing is, be fucking professional when it comes to the fans. It comes to the stories. It comes to what you're working on. They don't do that anymore. Like Hardboiled said, it goes, when person X is actually nice off of Twitter, it begs the question, why is person X such a jerk on Twitter? You know what I mean? Because you know what they do? They keep fighting back and forth. And don't do that. Well, hold on. I'm sorry. If the customer is the one who has a problem with what's going on in the books, listen to your fucking customer. You know what I mean? They don't do that. And in fact, they yell at the customer and they tell the customer that they're wrong. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's kind of tough not to do when someone's up in your face going like you suck. Not to, I mean, like human nature is you want to like reply like I don't suck. It is you who sucks. You know,
Right.
like if you ever been to a convention, you see some kid get a portfolio review and they just fucking melt down on the
Hmm.
person reviewing him. Like that's amazing. You know, like I saw Sobalski one time tell a kid goes, well, obviously you know more than me. You know, good luck running comics. Like,
And right there, that's a fucking douchebag. I've dealt with. I've hold on. I've dealt
okay,
with him in
okay.
the past as well. I've dealt with him in the past, and he flip flops. He's not someone who's true to character. He's a fucking phony, and that's why they put him in the position he's in. And this is what I'm talking about. Editorial has to fucking change. How they
Yeah.
act, how they treat everyone is like shit, because it's about ego with them. Somebody like him, he's not looking to hire new people. He's more interested in promoting the food that he's eating, the trips he's going on. Because if you notice, that's what they all want to be. They want to be these internet celebrities. If you look at his Instagram, or if you look at what the fuck they've been
Oh,
posting and
definitely.
talking about, they're not talking about the product they're supposed to be selling. They're not talking about the new awesome storyline that's going to be happening in the coming year. It's all garbage. They're hurting everything themselves with the fan base. The mainstream is shit. Top to bottom is shit.
Well,
You
you've
know?
probably seen this too. It's like you know, it's like a lot of these people who are like in comics now, who are like in the mainstream comics, like they grew up kind of like in kind of the grunge era, where they'd see someone like Kurt Cobain, like, "All my fans are stupid. I hate my fans." Or it'll be like, "Yay, Kurt Cobain's an artist." And so I think some of them think like they can have these hot takes and just be like every couple years, I always see someone. It's always these writers too who are like, "I'm going to be the rock and roll comics writer. I'm going to have these hot takes and tell it like it is. And if you let me, I don't give a fuck." And then you see it like in person, they're like this dopey fat guy with like glasses and buck
Right.
teeth. You're like, "Oh yeah, Mr. Rock and Roll over here."
Well, isn't that the thing? They're all power tripping. Look at what happened with Wade. He used to be a good writer. He used to have a lot of cool things happening, and then he just completely went off the deep end. And you see how crazy he became. How he's fighting with everyone. It's
But
ridiculous. If you
but
don't, if hold on, if you don't knob shine him, he doesn't care about what you have to say.
but
I mean,
yeah,
it's stupid and it's wrong. That's
but
not how you're supposed to be. If you're working for a company like that, with a big company, I don't care. All right, I'm going to scratch that. Never mind Marvel and DC. I say any company across the board. If you're going to conventions, if you're talking to fans and you're with people, you treat everyone with respect. You don't do that, watch what happens. They lost sight of everything. And like you said, like with CB, right away, he was tearing down this kid, or, oh, you think you know more
well,
than me? Oh, good luck with your life or whatever. I had encounters with someone at DC Comics who did the same thing. Dan Didio hired me. He wanted to hire me on a project. He passed me over to this other fucking guy, Mark. And this piece of shit tried to put me through the ringer. Then he involved a big name artist. Then he involved other people to fight with me. This isn't being professional. This is being a slimy turd, because he didn't want to work with a young guy. He only wanted to work. He worked with two big names only. And this is the way the industry is. It's run like shit by assholes who don't want to leave their positions. They don't have room to be nice to anyone. They're just snakes.
But yeah, like on the pro CG side, it's like one of the things that drives me crazy is how vilified Peter Samedi has gotten for just saying very basic things. I mean, just like like be nice to fans. I mean, like Peter Samedi is like a social media policy, like that should just be common sense. And like I was telling on the work campaign the other night, like if you're a professional in this industry and you don't like Ethan Van Sciver and you block all like 40 or 50,000 Twitter followers that Ethan has, that hurts you. That doesn't hurt Ethan. That doesn't
Yeah.
really hurt Ethan's fans either. Like
Right.
that hurts you.
Yeah.
You are the one who's cutting yourself off from 50,000, 40,000, whatever,
Exactly.
engaged comic fans who want to buy comic products. And again, a lot of people I meet in CG, I would really classify them as like traditionalists as far as comics go. I mean, they definitely just like an older style of like heroism in
Mhm.
comics. I mean, they're not really like when you hire a lot of these indie guys, I mean, like they're doing indie comics for the mainstream, and then like your boy Zach said, now they're selling like indie comics. They're very like, and the people who run comics now, I mean, they're like, and this is going to sound really sexist, and I don't mean it to, so I'm going to really try to say this slowly so I don't get misunderstood. But like,
Yeah.
in the heyday of comics, if you read the history of comics, you read about these guys who say like they just graduate high school in Wisconsin, they get on a bus and they go to New York and they live in like the dangerous, Death Wish era New York Hell's Kitchen, and because they want to work at these companies because they love comics, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like the heyday I feel of comics. That was the people who were calling the shots, hiring the artists. I mean, they lived and quite honestly bled comics sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Today, the people who run comics are mostly women who went to Ivy League schools, whose families can afford to pay for them to live in like one of the most expensive cities in the world, and most of them don't really have it. Like I don't know the last time I met a dude who like his career path was editor. It's almost all women now. Which again, I mean, like it's not that women can't do the job. Women are great. Women can do everything.
Yeah. No,
but it's like they come from a very different background, and most of them really aren't interested in comics, which is why like when you read interviews, a lot of them seem to think every comic was like Youngblood from the 90s up until they got into comics. Like when they talk about like, the rampant sexism and how, women were allowed or people of color weren't allowed to work in comics. It's like, oh no, that actually hasn't been true for decades.
Exactly.
But like, they don't know that. Like they don't know the history.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I will say this, and again, this is women are different than men kind of thing. And again, I'm not saying women are, less than men. I'm just saying women are different. Mm-hmm. Women are auditory and men are visual. It's like men look at pornography, women read romance novels. Yeah. So I think a lot of times when they're trying to like court this young adult audience in the comics, with like books like, Miss Marvel, America Chavez, like, what I'm talking about, those people. Yeah. I think the format's wrong. I think if you really want to attract these people, they would rather read a novel about Miss Marvel or Squirrel Girl. Right. Like the visuals of comics don't appeal to them as much as the traditional male audience.
Right. And I hold on. I agree with you on this. And this is why I was saying too, if you're going to do something like that, then create another division for them. And you tell these stories that would be more geared towards them. Because here's the thing, like you said, they're these privileged Ivy League type people that are getting in there, right? And they're trying to force more women to be the editors. Now, here's the thing. Most of them have no knowledge whatsoever of what came before them. It's only what they've heard or seen in more recent years, we'll say. No one's going back and putting in the work or reading, the Golden Age, Silver Age. They're not doing that kind of stuff. They don't care about that kind of stuff. What they care about is what they're being told to right now. Do more of this because we need to fill that quota. This is why we're hiring these women, because they have to tell this new narrative. That's what they're doing. Now, here's the thing, too, that to me, it drives me crazy because look at Jeff Johns, for example. He grew up, from what I understand, he loved all of the older characters. He loved all that stuff. And his career in DC, that's what he was doing. He was starting to bring these characters back. The Legion. He was putting these people back in to become like bigger names again or big players in their storylines. That's the thing. He knew like the creators who came before them by reading all those books, writers, artists, whatever, and he gave respect to them. That's why Jeff Johns across the board, 90% of his work to 100%, people love what he's been doing, right? That's why they hired him also to help with the movie side of things and TV or whatever. Like there is something to be said about that. Now, like I'm just using him as an example where if you know what came before you and you have respect for what came before you, you could implement those characters and the new storylines that you do could work the proper way. Now, on Marvel's side, they're not doing that. They're shitting on the old to bring up the new, which is wrong, and it's stupid.
Yeah, well, I mean, my point about these mostly women new editors, I mean, again, it's not that they're women's the problem. It's just I'm just kind of like, kind of calling it as I see it. But like,
I'm not saying that either. I'm not saying that all women are the problem. I'm not saying it because someone like Joelle Jones, she comes to mind as well. She's fantastic. She's a big fan of what came before her. You have to have respect for the material, and then I don't care if it's man, woman, trans, whatever. If you have respect for the material and you want to tell a good story, then you have a good creator. Then that's someone I want to hire. I don't want to just hire someone off the street who, because you're going to fill a certain quota and we're going to go with a new narrative, let's do that. That's wrong.
Well,
that's
like,
just it. If you're pushing the narrative that a man can't tell a woman's story, obviously you need women to tell the stories, and that is the problem. They're just grabbing any woman. They're not really.
yeah, I mean, what I say is, like, when I'm talking about the kind of people who are now like in the most expensive cities in America, working editorial, is God damn it, war campaign. God, okay, never mind. I quit. No, what I call them, these comics, I call them barista comics, where like I imagine these women who live in like really expensive areas of Manhattan who are going into their local like hip coffee shop and like wanting to impress like the pink-haired barista behind the counter. It's like, they're like, oh hey, I do comics. Like, comics are a male power fantasy. Oh no, wait a minute, this comic about Squirrel Girl, is about the AIDS scourge in Latin America. You're like, oh, wait a minute, never
And
mind.
look, she's fat and ugly too.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look, that averts. I mean, but I think that's what they're doing. I mean, I think they're literally like within their what they call like echo chamber. I mean, like if you look at if like the majority of editors, I mean, women, men, whatever on Twitter, I mean, they mainly seem to live through Twitter and like they mainly follow other industry people, kind of like them. So when like there's these books that like most of the CG like doesn't like like America Chavez, and you hear stuff like America Chavez is the most important book in a decade, and they're like, oh, it is. Let's keep rebooting that because it doesn't sell well. It's like they're not really. I mean, they don't follow like actual comic fans. I mean, so I think that's why like when Richard Meyer got popular and CG really took off, it just blindsided them. They had no idea what was going on. It was like, it's so much different than like the feedback they get to like, it must be these men who hate women, who hate people of color, who hate, people of different genders. That must be it, because all the feedback we get is we're doing the most amazing, important work ever in comics. So I think that's kind of what the problem is.
Where are all these men that hate women? I have yet to meet them.
Oh yeah, it's like all the incels in a Comicsgate who have like 3 kids and a wife,
Right? And that's what they love to do. They love to label and do that kind of thing because it's part of like their agenda. What they're doing, it's part of this feminist nonsense. I'm sorry, Gail is a diehard feminist. That's what she is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, feminism. I mean, I would say that like if you get, I mean, I read up on feminism when I was in college because I was in a very, I kind of run in very liberal kind of underground punk rock kind of circles, and there's. Like, if you read about feminism, there's 3 waves of feminism they talk about. Like, the first wave is like the suffragettes, women who are like, we have souls, we should be allowed to own property, like that's first wave. And second wave is like the 70s, like women who are basically like, the second wave is really characterized by women who thought that there's like the men's stuff and the women's stuff, and the stuff that women were given were always inferior. Like, so like they would basically shun that, like we're going to wear pants because, skirts are a bad form of clothing. We're not going to wear bras because bras are uncomfortable and men don't have to wear them. Right. So that's second wave. Yeah. Third wave, when I was growing up, was like when Riot Girl happened. And like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that whole kind of underground scene in like the 90s, kind of more feminism. And third wave is characterized by like women and men can be different, but you still have to listen to us. Like, I can wear makeup and a skirt and, have long hair and like, and think Barbie's neat, but you still have to respect me. You still have to treat me as an equal. So I think a lot of the feminist stuff I see like in the kind of anti-Comicsgate circles is almost like a throwback to the second wave. Like, it's almost like retroactive. It's like 2.5 wave. It's like you're already, women can't have boobs because that's that's there to excite men. It's like, well, no, women can have breasts and you still have to respect them as women. They're still women, like that doesn't negate anything.
Well, I think part of the problem is there's a splinter in that third wave that you're talking about. Like one sect, I would say, is very much like you were talking about. The other, however, is kind of a more extreme version of the second wave, and they're the really vocal ones. They are the problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I think that's probably comics in general right now. I mean, I think Twitter is the problem. Although if you're a professional in comics, I mean, if you're not on Twitter, you're dead. Like, if you're not on Twitter networking, you don't exist in comics these days. I mean, the whole reason I worked on Vestige is because Gat saw me on Twitter saying that I was looking for work, So, I mean, you can't. So when your boy Zach is like, get off Twitter, it's like, it's not really good advice if you're trying to have a career. But
hold on. I'm going to go back for a second on that.
Okay.
With their type of feminism, what they're doing. And that's the thing is, it's more about like destruction thing. They want to destroy what they think men really enjoy and make it theirs. That's what it feels. It's not that they don't want to be seen as equals. It's they want to be seen as they're better than.
Well,
They're better than the guys who came before them. We're better than all that, and that's also the
yeah,
wrong approach. I'm sorry, that's the wrong approach to do because
I don't. I mean, I don't.
well, here's the thing.
Okay,
They're trying to alienate more people. Because here's the thing. It's if a guy did it, again, it's the whole white male privilege nonsense that they want to keep regurgitating nonstop. I'm sorry. We've been very diversified for a very long time. I came from New York. I've seen how it was through the 80s, 90s. It's called a melting pot for a reason. Everyone is seen as an equal. It's the shit where these new waves of political nonsense that happens, and they try to brainwash the masses. What they try to do. So they want you to think a certain way or act a certain way, and now they're doing it through entertainment. That's the fucking point of all of this nonsense. Is that we're kind of fighting back, but not just fighting back. We're creating stories that are for everyone. It's about having a face again, having a voice that actually matters. That this is how the world is going, not that, oh, because so-and-so tells us we have to see it this way, that's the way we're going to go. Men are horrible. Women are better. Our stories are going to be better. And they're not. And that's kind of what they're doing. They're doing it through media. They're doing it through comics. They're trying to control shit, and it's not working because the masses are seeing it, and they're annoyed of it. They don't want this shit thrown in their face 24/7. It's like the thing. Well, it's like the thing of like if you see a gay couple, it's like, cool, they're gay. I respect it. I don't care. But don't come up in my face and be like, oh, I'm gay. You have to accept me. Whatever people want to think, they could think. But as long as there's no harm done to anyone else, fine, whatever. I have friends who are on the entire spectrum, gay, straight, all colors, creeds. It doesn't matter. It's just like whatever your beliefs are, cool. You want to do them in the privacy of your own home? Awesome. But don't push those beliefs on me. And that's what they're doing now. They're pushing those beliefs on everyone. And that's where it comes down to, like the whole thing with the CG thing. Because even this stuff too, like where they think women won't be buying these books if it's still the men who are writing it and drawing it and all that crap. And it's bullshit. My aunt, she was a diehard Superman fan. And this is back in the 60s. Diehard Superman fan. They weren't writing the book for specifically for certain genders. She read it because she thought it was cool. She liked everything that was about. You know what I mean? And that's what everyone lost track of. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I think like you guys are familiar with a guy named Brett Weinstein. He's part of what they call the intellectual dark web. Like he's on Joe Rogan a lot.
Okay.
Real quick, he's a very liberal person. He's like a social biologist, I believe. But he taught at Evergreen College in Washington, which is like the most liberal college on like the planet. Basically, it's like you can measure in anything. There are no grades, kind of thing. But he basically got thrown out by like these super social justice warrior people, which is a whole big thing. So like a lot of the times he talks about the problems with that movement. And the thing that he says that I always keep in the back of my mind is like, when you're talking about the social justice movement, you've got basically two factions that look almost identical on the surface, right? Mm-hmm. You've got the majority of people who are really interested in just that social justice. Like we'll say we'll just take feminism as like the example of that. I mean, there's a majority of people I would say who believe in feminism and consider themselves feminists. I mean, they just want to be treated equally. They want the same opportunity that everyone else has. I mean, like, yeah, I'm a woman. I've got different genitalia. I may be interested in different things than men, but like, I'm not less than men. I'm just, I'm interested in that. Right. So that's the majority of people. Now, these small, very loud people who are running the shots, they're basically into a new form of oppression that flips the tables on the traditional. So it's like, but these two people seem to say the same thing. So you've got like the people who are just like, well, I don't hate men. I just, don't want to be treated differently as a woman. And you've got the very small people like, oh no, I hate men. I want to, throw men, under the bus, so it's like anything else. I mean, you're the loudest voices you're seeing from these people who are extremists, who are bad people, have bad agendas, but they're kind of hiding amongst the people who are, who have, very good intentions and very, so it's like, and it's hard to differentiate people. And like the small group tends to bully the larger group. It's like, oh, well, I thought you said you like feminism. Then why aren't you, doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Why do you have long hair? Why are you wearing lipstick? If you like feminism so much, I mean, it's that kind of bullshit. So I think that's in comics too. It's like like when you talk about CG and the whole thing, the majority of comic artists are not weighing in on CG. The majority of comic professionals are not on, not being shitty to their fans, or not on Twitter all day saying, dumb bullshit about Trump. It's a very small group of mostly very unsuccessful comic people who are really waging the war against CG. If you really look at it, I mean, you're really not seeing a lot of the big names who are on Twitter all day, doing this. It's very small people, but it does kind of seem like the whole industry is, because they're bullying everybody else. I mean, they're the ones who are like, when a comic professional, like retweets a Move the Needle post, bullies them into like deleting that retweet. So yeah, I mean, it's very much like these small group of people who are, I mean, maybe a dozen people, maybe less, that are,
It is the control thing. So like whatever fighting that everyone's doing back and forth, it comes down to, like you said, other people being bullied to change this or to fight back or whatever, or don't be friends with so-and-so. If you are, then you're not going to get work with us. Those are bully tactics.
So again, it's a very small group of bullies, but it seems like an overwhelming army of them, though. I mean, that's the thing. They seem like they're large in number.
But hold on. When those people are editorial and they're doing that, that's horrible. It's horrible and it's sick. Someone Tom Brevoort, he was fighting with fans. He was fighting with other creators, agreeing with the other prick to go beat someone up. I mean, come on. This is childish, retarded, on like mentally. They're just gone. They're gone.
Well, okay. Here's let me give you guys an analogy that I think is going on, right? And again, I'll just say real quick, that is indefensible. If you are shitting on fans or people who want to buy your product, I mean, and they don't buy your product, you fucked up. That's on you. Exactly. You being I mean, again, people have bad days. I'm not a saint. My rule on Twitter is, if you say something nice to me, I will try to at least say thank you and respond in some way. If you say something shitty to me, I'll just not engage. I mean, like, that's the problem, is someone says something shitty to you, and like a human being is like, God, you're from New York. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, just go say something randomly shitty to some dude, in like the fucking boroughs, to see how well that works out for you. But it's hard to like I have a friend of mine who we always called him Black Batman, because he was this black punk rock dude who fucking would just rock people who got in his face. Like, he was amazing. I mean, he would take out like 5 dudes, or like,
right.
And we're always like, dude, like, I mean, he's a badass. How come he's always one that people are fighting? Like, we're all a bunch of scrawny vegetarian kids. Like, no one's trying to fight us. And the reason we found out what was going on was, like, if someone, like some stranger, would step up to us and be like, hey, nice bitch cut jeans, girly man, we'd be like, yeah, that's great, dude. Merry Christmas, and just kind of walk off. But if you got my buddy's face, the Black Batman, you're like, yeah, fucking, can you pants get any tighter, girly boy? He would deck you in your fucking face. So it's that kind of thing where it's like, that's why, you're getting in fights. If people are coming at you hard on people just have like a bad day. People are just, they're, whatever is going on in their life, they're not, they're just not in a good mood. And they come at you to like, man, your coloring sucks. Like, okay. Cool.
I agree with you 100% on that. I do. If someone's going to try to do personal attacks on you, whatever, yeah, I understand that. But this thing where they have this track record.
Oh yeah, that's
with fans or whatever, and then they try to speak for or on behalf of the company. It's wrong.
Yeah, you're taking your fans for granted. I mean, again, when you see people who are like, my thoughts and my opinions are my own, it's like, well, yeah, well, then take out the fact that you're an editor at this company in your Twitter, because that's why people follow you.
Right. And that's the thing too, right? And that's what I'm going back on. See, like, if I were the top guy in charge at any of those companies, and someone who's working underneath me, that's how they treat fans or whatever, I wouldn't be slapping them on the wrist. I'd be firing their ass immediately.
Yeah, that makes no sense. I don't understand that at all, because, I mean, that's why I think that CG should take these people to task more, because, I mean, they work for a company. I mean, they're not like a freelancer. If they get fired from like one company, they'll just work for another. I mean, these people will lose their fucking jobs. Like, call them out on it more.
Instead, what we've seen people like Joe Q praising people like Renfamous or their other editors for what they're doing. Yeah, keep fighting with them. Yeah.
Oh God, that Renfamous chick.
Well, this is what I'm talking about, though. Not just that, but I'm talking about, like, they're cheering on their editors to fight with people. That is disgusting.
Oh, it is. I was actually explaining Renfamous to someone the other day. I'm sorry, Vinny. So, like, I honestly thought that she was Joe Quesada's girlfriend for a while, because I saw people making fun of it, and I was like, because I couldn't figure out like why she was a big deal. Mm-hmm. Because I just dip in the comic. I mean, there's a billion Comicsgate videos. There's new ones every day, and just like, it's kind of like work campaign. People give me shit about like not knowing what's going on with WordCamp. And I'm like, dude, I try. I'm lost every time I watch one of their videos. I'm missing whatever the last 50 in jokes are. I'm trying to keep up. But so like for a long time I was trying to figure out like what's up with this girl. Like, like because I just assumed that she was, either I assumed she was a creator, but I didn't know who she was because I couldn't figure out like why she had this platform. Mm-hmm. And I did research and it's like, oh yeah, she was some like weird like alt-right like troll who was like against gay marriage like 2 years ago and now is like fighting comic people. So the analogy I made about her was like, imagine this. Imagine you're a restaurant owner, right? And outside your restaurant every day, there's a bunch of unruly kids. They're loud. They're talking disrespectful. I mean, they're not violent, but they're just, causing a ruckus. And, you're like, and you notice that like your restaurant is getting less and less business. So you're like, man, I got to get rid of these kids. These kids are scaring away business. So you're like, you talk to the cops and the cops are like, no, man, they're on the sidewalk. There's nothing we can do. Those kids have a right to be there. But every day you're getting less and less business. And you're like, man, what do I got? What can I do about this? And then one day Jason Voorhees kills all those kids. And you're like, man, that Jason Voorhees, he's a hideous swamp, zombie, but man, he did me a favor. Those kids are gone. He's not such a bad guy. I'm going to leave some steak out for Jason Voorhees in the alley. I'm glad he got rid of those kids. But then you notice like, oh, it wasn't those kids who were scaring people away. It was like your bad customer service. It was your bad food. That's why people were leaving. And now not only are you still losing business, but you've got Jason Voorhees hanging around your fucking restaurant, stabbing your customers to death because he's not going away now that, he thinks he's a valuable part of your business. So, I mean, that's kind of how I explain her. It's like, they're kind of using her because they don't know how to fight against this criticism. And it's just going to blow up in their face. Like, I guarantee you the reason she's not hanging out with like the alt-right anymore is because she felt she was due something from them for all the effort she put into like, I don't know, fighting gay rights or whatever the hell she was doing, insulting children. Yeah, and at some point, someone on the Republican side goes, no, you're nuts. We're not, we're dissing ourselves from you. And then she felt betrayed. So then she went against them. So in comics, she's going to get to a point where people are, like she's going to be asking for work and they'll probably give her some work, but she's not very good or she's just like, doesn't sell well. So she'll be like, hey, give me some more work. Let me tackle some bigger titles. She'll be like, nah, it's okay. It kind of wasn't working out. And then trust me, in a couple years, that's going to happen to her. And she's going to be the biggest like anti-mainstream comic book person ever. She's going to be the one who's like going after all the editorial at Marvel and DC because she's going to feel like they didn't properly repay her for like attacking Richard Myers and Ethan Van Sciver. That's the person they're shacking up with. She's the Joker from Dark Knight, who's burning half their money and feeding them to dogs.
She's definitely a clown. I'll give you that.
I think you might have given her a little too much credit with the Jason Voorhees reference there. I would have gone with Leprechaun myself.
Well, I mean, but you understand what I'm saying. It's like, they don't know how to fight this annoyance. So then they let the monster fight the annoyance for them. But then now they can't get rid of the monster.
Right.
Yeah, well, because they're also, I mean, there's rumors that she's being paid from Joe Q. Like, no one knows all this shit for a fact, but you could assume it all you like.
No, I mean, I assume that she's just a dumb person who has a lot of who's just addicted to attention. I mean, I think she's doing this work for free.
Hold on, he's also praised her. He's praised.
Yeah, that's how she's getting paid, by praise.
But this is what I'm saying. This is how disgusting they are. I'm sorry, I'm not going to praise anybody who's going to fight. Other creators who are shitting on fans, all that stuff. Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't get me wrong. That blows my mind. I mean, she's a liability. She's going to blow up in their face. I mean, it's like, oh man, Joe, you're going to have to resign because of this chick. She's going to do something, And
I think that's why he keeps getting demoted because they want to get rid of him. He is a mess. He is a problem. People try to praise him for what happened with Marvel Knights and all that stuff. I know more of that situation and what happened around that time. The guy's a snake, and he feeds his closest friends to the vipers. He's that type of person. As long as he can get ahead, he doesn't care about anybody else. That's how he's been his entire career. I've heard things about him before he got into Marvel. So I know the kind of leeches that are there, these shitty people, and it's stuff like that. Like I said, editorial, top to bottom. Get rid of them all. Put people in there who actually care about the characters, who care about creators. Put them in those positions. Watch how the stories change, how the quality it raises again. They won't do that. They're foolish, they're stupid, and they're stuck in their ways, and that's what
they're out of touch. I mean, they're really just out of touch with the customer wants, because they have this idea that somehow they can't get into the new customers until the old customers are gone. Like somehow the old customers are keeping the new customers away, and like
that's horseshit.
No, it is horseshit. It's like every time you see like a band, it gets kind of big, and then they're like, "Well, let's make our sound more mainstream, and we'll be even bigger." And then like then they lose like all their old fans, and they a couple years ago they're like, "Oh, we're back to basics. We're the old Metallica that you used to know," kind of thing. It's like,
but
I mean, yeah, it's that same kind of thing. It's like, again, like CG, the fight, the big fight between like the hardcore anti-CG and that hardcore CG people is a very small group of people. I mean, the majority of people who buy comics, they're not even on Twitter. Like they probably don't even watch YouTube videos. I mean, a lot of YouTube videos. I mean, like but the thing is, they have the exact same views. I mean, they don't want the characters, they don't want the lore messed with. I mean, they don't want like badly written comics that feel like really thinly veiled political pamphlets that, have no action. I mean, they don't want like cheap artists. They don't want cheap coloring. They don't want to have to pay like $7 for a 20-page book. I mean, it's kind of, it's like the label CG and anti-CG, I think is kind of just, it's a little bit of a smokescreen sometimes, I think, for the bigger issues. I mean, and the thing is, like, I mean, the people who like, I would say the majority of people who are probably buying all these like Indiegogo books, I mean, they're not like, culture warriors. They're not on Twitter 24/7, like yelling at.
They're people.
They're just normal dudes.
They're people, men, women, everyone across the board who want good quality again. That's what it comes down to.
What's happening is people are trying to escape what used to be escapist entertainment.
Exactly.
Well, it's kind of like vinyl records. I mean, people want to collect things. I mean, you can't really collect digital things. Mm-hmm. It's like even like trade paperbacks aren't really collectible. I mean, the people who really want comics, they want to be able to like. That's why those facsimile things, like all the comic stores in my area, can't keep those facsimile books in store. I mean, they just every time that new one comes out, they order more than they did last time, and they blow out. I mean, people want these. They want that experience of having a comic in their hand. I mean, and I would say some of the people they're trying to reach, like the last time I did a comic convention, a guy came up and he was like talking to me, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my daughter, she's maybe 12." He's like, "Yeah, she just got into comics, and man, her and her friends really like Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And he was kind of like dismissing it, but I was actually really interested. I was like, "Really? Like you're really into Kamala Khan?" She's like, "Oh yeah, me and my friends, we love it." And I was kind of talking to her, and she has no interest in going to a comic store. I mean, her and her friends buy the graphic novels off Amazon, and like, I mean, they don't want to buy a monthly book. I mean, they want to buy like the graphic novels. I mean, I think a lot of these people are trying to reach. I mean, they're just trying to the wrong format. I mean, I think a lot of, I mean, again, these young women, I think would like, that's one of the reasons I think they like manga is because manga comes out like in those like, books. I mean, they're not buying like an issue every month to get like, and again, if you look at comics now compared to comics when we were kids, it's like you're getting like a fourth of a comic. It's crazy when you read an old comic how much happens in an old comic.
Exactly. Well, and isn't that it too? Like you said, because I've done a ton of conventions as well, and I'll be honest, I've never had discussions on this level with the fans. They'll come up to me and they'll say something similar like what is going on there? Like, I don't like what the hell they're doing with their stories, or why are they pushing in that way or this direction? I'm like, dude, I don't know, but. And you can see what they like, and it depends too on the sales that you're making of what's really moving, what people want, and you could see they still want the old characters, they still want that kind of stuff. Even kids coming up to the table because they're recognizable. They're not going, "Oh, I definitely want Spider-Gwen and I definitely want Kamala Khan." No, but if it is something that they were reading, like you said, on trade paperback or something, and they happen to ask for it, that's another story. But for the most part, people still want the classic characters. They want to read those fun adventures, those fun journeys and stuff. And that's
I mean, they just want to read a good book. Exactly. It's like not even always classic. I mean, they don't want to read the same Batman story for like 100 years. They want to read new Batman stories, but
Well, and here's the thing too, because
with Batman,
Well, I was bringing some of my books around as well, and that's the thing. I had people selling me out at some conventions, and and I had a higher price on my book because the first time that I released one of them, it had to be hard because I paid out of pocket. So I wanted to make back my money, but they saw the quality. So they see it's more oversized in page count. Like Through the Woods, the first issue I had was it was a bigger book, and people enjoyed that, and they kept running back to me and like, "Oh, do you have issue 2 yet?" Because they again, like you said, they want good product. They want good quality. And that's not what's being given to them anymore.
Well,
so like, where I'm coming from CG wise, that's where I come from. I come from the quality side of things and to listen to the fans.
And definitely one thing I'm sorry, go ahead, Vinny.
I was going to say, like, my thing is I'm not looking to fight with those other people. The thing is I'll make it clear, I'll make it clear that I don't like what the hell they're doing. But at the same time, I'm not looking to fight with them because I don't care. They don't care about me. I don't care about them and what they're doing to those characters. I care about my characters, my product, and the fans and the supporters who come to me. So that's where it is. It's that thing of you got to treat people right, and they're not doing that. So where are they turning to? They're turning to places like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, these other people and places for that type of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. Red Gaze, or do you like kind of listening to me and Vinny talk over each other?
I do. I love it.
Having great.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I'm sorry when I keep doing that to you, Vinny, but I tried to do this on War Campaign and it went over like a lead balloon, but I'll do it right now.
All right, well, let me just interrupt you for a minute.
so Vinny, what is as a comic creator? There's an answer to this. What is, in your opinion, what is it that we do? I mean, just like in a short answer, what is your opinion that we do as comic creators? Like when you boil it down, when you take everything else out of it, what is it that we do?
I'd say storytellers.
I would say our job, when you really boil it down, is to make people happy.
Yeah.
Even like those of us who do really brutal, like violent, horrible comics, the people who buy those comics are super stoked to get them. I mean, that person walks into the comic store, walks into the convention, or, puts in their credit card in Indiegogo, and they're super excited that this happiness is going to come towards them. And I think a lot of comics these days from the mainstream are like what they call in like children's programming, green vegetable comics. Like I've been watching this documentary series on like old school Nickelodeon, and they talk a lot about that with like children's program. Well, they call it green vegetable programming because it's like programming that's supposedly good for children, but children have no interest in. So I think a lot of comics are like, they're green vegetable comics now. They're like, oh, well, I really think these white incels need to learn about, gender diversification. It's like, well, I mean, are you trying to like make a book that makes people happy? Because you can do that and make a good book, but you're not doing it. I mean, you think you're trying to educate people and show how, relevant you are rather than trying to make a good product. And I mean, you can do both, but you're basically failing at both. I mean, again, it's like, why I don't want to eat these green vegetables. Ooh, I want to go, eat this, awesome candy bar,
yeah, it was more of like a two-part thing as well, because it's like, yeah, what do we do? What I think what we're doing is that we're being storytellers. We're here to entertain, and then it's what we're doing for people. Yeah, you're right. We're making them happy, and that should be our job. Period. And
so
they're not doing that. They make it about ego. Most of the people, and where they're going with these storylines and stuff.
Oh yeah,
I don't shit on everyone across the board, because like the thing too is like in my teen years I picked up a lot of European books. I like European artists because they're not trying to put a label on anything. They're trying to make people happy is what they're trying to do. They're telling their story. They're having fun. They'll put anything and everything in there because they want to move the story along. They want to show the characters' developments throughout the story. And now it's the other way around. It's they think it should just be about characters and what they're trying to say, their statements. And like you said, they're turning it to something else. They're not looking to make people happy. They want to make political statements. They
went from telling their story to telling their truth.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I mean, when you're an educator, and if you feel like your job is to educate the incel masses to, these social issues. I mean, an educator, their job is not to make kids happy. Their job is to educate, So once you start, losing like losing the script here, and you start kind of thinking your job is to do one thing when it really it's to do another. That's why you're seeing people mistreat fans, because if you're a teacher and some kid steps up to you, kids, shut up. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to teach you, but like, we're here to kind of make people happy. So I think that's, if you kind of lose track of that, that's why a lot of this bad behavior is happening,
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like when I go to conventions, I go to these little conventions in my area, and I don't really make any money. People don't really seem to give a crap about the guy who colored the drive. Actually, in my neck of the woods, it's hard to convince people that I worked on these comics. I'm like, see this Star Trek comic? That's my last name. I did that, because they just don't come in contact with any comic creators. So I mean, I don't make a lot of money, but like one thing I do is if it's kind of slow, I put up a little sign. I say I'll do 5-minute marker sketches for kids for free, which is kind of just a way to get traffic to go through. And I just have like a little pad of paper, and I'll just draw like I'll go, "Who's your favorite superhero?" And they're like, I mean, again, we're talking like kids who are like in the single digits, and all of a sudden they're kind of embarrassed, but they're like, "I don't know, I like Iron Man," so I'll draw like Iron Man for 5 minutes and give him a marker sketch, and I hand that to the kid, and the kid just lights up. He's smiling. He's just so happy like that I made this art for him. So I mean, I always think like that's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm doing that on a larger scale with adults mostly, but it's the same thing. Like I don't want people who are super into Star Trek to pick up my book and be bummed out that I did a bad job on Star Trek, or like I don't want some kid to who likes Scooby Doo to buy a comic that I fucking just flubbed on Scooby Doo because I felt like I should be doing something more important. Like I saw a tweet that drove me crazy, and I won't say who it is because I don't want to. I think this person's not a bad person, but like they had a tweet. They're like, I'm paid to be writing about toys when I want to be writing about socialism. And that drives me crazy, where it's like, maybe the people whose toys you're writing about want to read a comic about those toys and are bummed that you don't care, that you think you're better at it. It's better than, doing this. It's like, I hate it when people have that mentality. It's like, whether I'm doing Scooby-Doo or I'm doing Vestige or I'm doing, whatever comic, I'm trying to do the best I can because I want people to be stoked that they have this comic that I made. I want the people who have Vestige to be like, holy shit, look at this book. This is awesome. This was well worth, like, I'm so happy I'm part of this, like, I'm so happy I got this. This is so rad. I don't want to be one of those people who are like, yeah, I just needed a job and I just did whatever because I need to get to the next job. I
totally know what you mean. And in fact, we're going to be showing Vestige soon. I just want to, let Red go because he's going to do a stream. So,
sorry, Red.
No, you're good, man. This is
for the record, I would much rather listen to your voice than my voice. Like when I hear my voice recorded, I'm like, who is this person? I don't like them.
No, you're good, man. This stream is for you. So yeah, talk away, man.
Yeah. So next time I'll just give you a script and you can just make these points for me and not talk over Vinny.
Well, sometimes you got to.
Yeah, no, we were having a fun back and forth anyway, so it's all good.
We're having a discussion.
It was a great discussion.
I would love. I mean, this isn't going to happen, and it would just blow up. But I would really love to have some more discussions with like people who are super anti-CG. I mean, I'd like to talk to like your Mags and your Kwanzas and people like that. I mean, I think it would devolve into a big yelling match, but I think it'd be really interesting to like get this perspective out and just talk about these issues because I think there's a big discussion to have about. The relationship between creators and their audience. There's a big relationship between, just all this. I mean, again, it's like I said, it's it would just blow up instantly and everyone would hate us. But
yeah, I was gonna say that would be nice, but yeah, good luck with that.
But I'd much rather talk to Vinny and be like, yeah, Vinny, I don't really agree with this point, but this is how I see it. And Vinny go like, well, I agree, I see it this other way. But we're having a good time, having a conversation. And it's not exactly about someone being wrong. It's about just this is how I see things.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
That's exactly what it is. And like I said too, like with other people, the ones who are fighting so hard against the other ones, that's up to them. If they have personal beef or whatever it comes down to, fine, have at it. But like the only way that I'll fight with somebody like that is if they are attacking me, then I'll attack back. But it comes down to as well as like don't involve fans on that. Don't try to hurt fans on that. And that's something that they just love to do. They want to pull that up. They want to pull it in because they think it's a good way of hurting their opponent or however they see us. You know what I mean?
On a deeper level, it's a way to gain power through like having a bigger platform. Again, if you got to go, Red, I'm just going to be babbling for a while. So
all right, team. Yeah,
dip out, whatever.
Cool. Yeah, it was nice to meet you, Jason, and thanks for having me.
I definitely, if I need some voiceover work, because I hate my voice, I'll hit you up.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Red's very
cool, man. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, thanks, man. But I was going to say is like one thing I always when I'm talking to like people who are trying to break in, I'm always hey, Ryan Miller. I'm always trying to like talk to people about conducting themselves on social media. Jace, Hardboiled, my Twitter. I mean, I guess Vinny tweeted about me today, so I mean, look that up. But
yeah, man, yeah, just jump on mine. I have his Twitter on there. Just
But here's the trap I see people getting in. And it's mostly writers getting this trap, but I see a surprising amount of like artists getting this trap too. So when you're on Twitter, when I post things on Twitter, and again, since I did the war campaign thing, I think I got about 100 new followers. One thing I've seen a lot with CG is their engagement is huge. I mean, people have maybe like 200 or 300 people who follow them have like huge engagement, where I have, like over 1,000. And, it's like, if I, like the other day I woke up, I had 50 new like notifications on Twitter, and I was like, oh man, did someone die? Like I was like, usually it's like if I have 5, I'm like, well, I had a busy day. I had 3 people retweet this painting I took me hours to do, or this comic thing. But so what happens is like, so you're new on Twitter, or you're old on Twitter, and you're just trying to get some momentum. And one thing you'll find is like, if I do a panel or a pinup, or I color something, or I show something I got paid to do, I might get 5 likes, maybe 3 retweets if I'm lucky. Mm-hmm. Again, Jason, I'm working on my channel. Thank you for stopping by, Jason Black.
Yeah, man.
But like, so I mean, it bums me out. Like, and that's the reason I kind of let my social media kind of like lapse. I haven't been keeping up my Tumblr or my Twitters, because like it's like people don't care. But if I go on there, if I write Trump is a bad president, and I'm not a fan of Trump, so I'll just get that out of the way. But let's just say I write Trump is a bad president, I'll probably get 10 times the amount of retweets and likes, right? Mm-hmm. And if I write Trump is a criminal president, I'll get 10 times more than that. And if I write Trump should be impeached and thrown in jail, I'll get 100. So you see a lot of these people that get in a trap where it's like, I mean, what is a more efficient use of your time? Writing that like something, political that you may or may not believe in. I mean, some people who think Trump is a bad president maybe don't think he should be assassinated, that kind of thing. Yeah. But the more extreme stuff you write, the more engagement you'll get. You'll get more and more people following you. And that's like, I can do a thoughtless Trump tweet in 2 seconds, or that gets a bunch of likes and retweets, or I can spend hours coloring a panel and get almost no likes and retweets. So, I mean, what is the more efficient use of my time? What actually is helping me grow my social media presence? I mean, it's that. So you'll do that because it works. And you'll get all these people who follow you because they like your sick Trump dunks, or, or Pelosi dunks, whatever your affiliation is. That'll happen for a while. And then you'll cross the threshold, and the people who like Trump will come at you. So then all you're doing is arguing with fucking randos all day and not doing art. And that's what I see happen with a lot of people. They get trapped in that.
I agree, man. That's what I've seen as well. And that's the thing too. It's like, all right, so if you do put those negative things out there, that's not really growing the fan base, because they're just saying they're liking what you said. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to support what you're doing. Because then on that note as well, usually the people who hate that much or along those lines, they're not really they're not looking for that kind of stuff. They're looking for more shit that's going to pertain to, like you said, if they hate a certain group or whatever, they're going to look for more information that what they hate, and they want to keep going in that circle. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's that negative view of things. And that's what I don't like either. I'd rather be positive on stuff. I'd rather approach things with logic. Like you said, I'd rather get work done. Getting the work done to me is more important than anything else. Like I'm growing my channel as well. I'm doing interviews here and there, because I do enjoy talking to other creators. I think, any supporters and fans, I think they enjoy listening to a good conversation, and they want to know more about the creators who are working on these projects. That's the one huge benefit I see out of all social media is that like the experience that I like to think what I'm doing on YouTube is an extension of how I am at the conventions. Since a lot of the shows that I've done, I've had my table surrounded by people, and I've seen big names who don't have the similar thing happen. I think, well, what are you working on? Are you doing a book for one of the big 2 or whatever? I'm like, no, I'm good to people, and they like my work. Period.
Yeah, and that's like earlier when you're talking about like someone like a Zoe Quinn. I mean, she gets this huge like Twitter following with people who like her attacking like incels or attacking the game industry or wherever. I don't read Zoe's things. I don't know what she really tweets about all day. Please don't come after me, Zoe Quinn. But that's the thing though. So like, I mean, if you're making sick dunks about Trump all day and you got this huge Twitter following, those aren't people who necessarily want to buy your product. I mean, they're getting what they want out of you. They're following you just because they want to see your sick like takes on politics. And then when you go to make like a product, they're not there. Like, that's not what I want from you. I want you to, like, I just want you to make fun of, my political enemies online. So, I mean, my social media is super boring, but that's because I try to keep it to like just the art I do, my coloring. And it's like, like, so on my Twitter, I'll basically like delete, a lot of like frivolous things I put, like I had ice cream today, like, because when you go to my Twitter, I want you to see my coloring art because I want you to judge whether you're going to hire me or not for your project so I can make a career. And there's a lot of times like they'll be like, oh, check out this artist, man. This guy's super sweet. And I can't find this person's art. Like I'm scrolling down to all these retweets, all these like, gifts about Trump and all these. I mean, it's just like, I don't give a crap about this. It's like,
Right.
And I give up on them. I'm like, okay, whatever. Maybe you're good. Maybe you're not. I just don't have time to figure out.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If you're gonna do something like that, then go on there. Usually, like hit their media so that you don't look at the retweets, and then you can find actually their stuff.
But even then, it's hard to find. It's like
true,
just like.
True. But on top of it too, what I was gonna say is the thing that I do like about Twitter that at first I didn't understand was the retweets, because we do that all day with everyone's campaigns because we want the word to get out. We want people to see these new projects, these new people. So like Hard Boiled, he's looking for an interior artist. So yeah, if he does like a retweet or something, people will, or he puts a tweet, we'll do a retweet because we're trying to help one another. And I think that's what part of this is. That's what makes it better, is that it is a community that's looking to help one another. Because if one person does great, you want to see your fellow man doing great. That's kind of where we're coming from, or most of us are coming from when it comes to this scene. I mean, because again, we still want to tell stories. We still want to make people happy. I'm speaking for myself. That's what we've been doing. That's what I've been doing since I've been doing crowdfunding for like 7 months. I've had 7 different projects out there, and all my projects have been fulfilled already. And I grew from nothing. I had on Twitter, I never really used Twitter. I only had about like 120 to 150 followers. Now I have over 1,000, and to me, I think that was pretty fast because I never really used that before. Now I'm on every day on Twitter,
It's a bummer. So if you're not, but like for me, it like I got bummed out because it was like every time for the last couple of years, because every time I was on Twitter, it was like it seemed like people were just angry at each other and like talking like crazy politics, and it's just like, and then I'd put up some artwork and no one cared, and it's just like I kind of.
Dude, same here. Like I wasn't hearing shit or whatever till I had a campaign, till I started talking to people on YouTube. Since I was getting the ball rolling a little bit. Because they want to hear and see you. It's not necessarily like you said. You think if you just type something provocative about a certain subject that you'll get more likes or whatever. It's not even about that. It's the people you want to engage, the people you want to talk to. It's going to be part of like some kind of a community, right? It's going to be people who are a little bit like-minded at least. You might not agree on everything, which is fine. But as long as you're out there for the same goal, you know what I mean? And the goal is to tell your stories, to make people happy, and to make a living off of the hard work that we're putting in, That's where I'm coming from at least, and I'm not looking to fight with people either. But again, if they come towards me, yeah, I'll do it. But at the same time, 99% of the stuff I have on Twitter is nothing to do with any of that shit. It's either about my projects that are coming up, friends' projects that are coming up, telling people about YouTube channels and shows to watch, because that's what it should be about, And that's
I feel the same way. I mean, although it doesn't make me maybe the most like, super entertaining, social media account, which, okay, sure. But, again, like, I mean, my job is to color comics. I'm a support player in like the scheme of comics. So, I mean, really it's like, my job is to, I mean, my purpose for Twitter is to have so people who need a colorist can see my work and decide if they want to hire me. I mean, it's really not so much the, be famous or whatnot, even although, the more famous I am, the easier it is for me to get work and the more I can charge. But I was going to say, like, I know because people want to hear about this, me kind of investigating Comicsgate. And like, I mean, when Comicsgate started to be like a big thing, I mean, everyone, like, trust me, everybody who's a professional was super interested in like Richard Meyer and what was going on, because it was just like the hot gossip.
Right.
And, and again, like he addresses a lot of things. Sometimes he gets like the cause wrong, but he addresses a lot of like the problems in the industry, like, and, which no one else is doing. I mean, everyone else is like, hey, comics are fine, even though they're losing money and shops are closing, but everything's good because the comics are the best they've ever been. And there's some other problem out there that we can't, like we can't really affect the people, whatever. Yeah. People don't want to buy comics because they don't feel comfortable in comic stores. It's like, nah, that's not it really. But But anyway, so like Comicsgate, and I would say War Campaign is probably the most like biggest example of this, has a really engaged fan base. I mean, the people who are in War Campaign, I mean, they love being in War Campaign. They can go on Rose's show and like be recognized as a member of War Campaign. So in a lot of ways, I think Comicsgate has created the community that the mainstream comic people talk about that doesn't exist. Like they always talk about there's a community, but mainly it's just like a thing that they throw people out of. It's not really something that they like. You can't be like a person who likes comics and be part of like the, mainstream comic community, but you could be someone who's a fan of comics and be part of War Campaign or Comicsgate in general. I mean, and again, you can go on all these live streams, you can talk to the people, of course, I mean, you have to pay a little bit of money, but I mean, even that's like, I mean, you could pay $2 and, talk to Cecil, where it's like, if you're really someone who's a super big fan of like Zoe Quinn, again, don't come after me, Zoe. I mean, how do you get a conversation with Zoe? I mean, all these other people who are the anti-CG people, they're kind of closed off. I mean, they're, like you said, they're rude to their fans if they even acknowledge their fans. So it's like, Comicsgate, I mean, there's all these videos, all these personalities. I mean, it's like, there's a new one every day. And then like, but there's a community of people that they can like talk to. And like, it's kind of like, reminds me a little bit of like the punk rock scene that I grew up in, like the hardcore DIY scene, where it was like, you're encouraged to be part of the scene, not just like watch the bands and buy the merchandise. You're encouraged to start your own bands or, talk to the bands. I mean, if you were a band in the hardcore kind of punk scene and you were like standoffish with the audience, I mean, no one liked you. You were a dick. I mean, you were expected to like help the next band or, like just talk to people or just be accessible. I mean, you definitely were not, if you were acting like a quote unquote rock star, I mean, you get tossed the fuck out.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of how I see CG. I mean, again, there are some people who are trying to bend that to their own kind of like political slant. Like, I've seen people who are trying to make CG an alt-right thing or like a devout Christian thing. And I think that's gotten rejected for good reason. I mean, I've never seen anyone be rejected from CG for being, well, okay. Like when I was doing the War Campaign thing, a couple people were accusing me of having a soy vocabulary or not really committing to this or being kind of like a soy boy in disguise, which, I mean, I think I'm a soy boy on my sleeve. I don't really think I'm disguising that pretty well. It's like, it's the former vegetarian straight edge punk rock guy. Yeah,
that to me was like part of the hazing as well, because it's like whatever Roe usually says, they jump on, whether it's fact or fiction, and they try to spin it whatever way they want. But it's part of a show, and like they're part of the show. That's what a lot of that is. So they don't take too much of that shit to heart.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's how it is. But
my job is to color comics. My job really isn't to be entertaining. I mean, I don't know if people are really liking what I've been saying on your show or not. I mean, I can't see if there's anyone listening, or I can't see if there's a chat who are somebody they hate me. But yeah, I mean, I am who I am. I mean, that's the thing. Like
I said, I've been showing most of what people have been saying anyway. So again, like don't think one way or the other.
But it's like if you don't like my politics, okay, well, maybe you should just like my coloring. Like that's kind of what I'm here to do. I'm not really here to be, like a.
Well, it's a good thing you brought up too, because again, people aren't going to hate or like you on that. Again, it's the work you're putting out. You're putting out good work. You're part of a great project. That's what they care about.
Yeah.
As like, and
as they should.
And here's the other thing: it's that you don't throw anyone under the bus. That's the thing too. So
we'll try not to. Well, let me talk about Work Campaign real quick, because I think this is important. So, I was looking for work and I got a hold of GAT, and, I knew I had heard of Work Campaign, and I had heard a lot of people, really all be afraid of Work Campaign. I mean, they're called Work Campaign, and they like, I mean, the thing is I heard like, they dox and harass people, but I really couldn't find any, like, I really could. It was hard for me to find any evidence of like what exactly War Campaign had done. Like if people are mad at, say, Zoe Quinn, like and again, please, Zoe, don't come after me. But I can find pretty quickly what the debate is on her. What the issue is. I really could never find anything really definite on War Campaign. But anyways, I knew that like War Campaign was CG, and they were pretty much we'll just say the worst of CG, their most extreme of CG, right? Mm-hmm. So Gat gets a hold of me, and again, it's obvious he's part of War Campaign. Again, I'd heard Roe on maybe EVS's thing, but I didn't really know a lot about War Campaign. I think I know less every day. Like somehow every time I
It's a lot of in jokes and craziness.
Oh yeah, somehow every time like I watch a video with Word Campaign, I know less about it than I did before. I'm just more confused. But anyways, so Gat gets a hold of me and he's like, hey man, we want to color this book, and I was apprehensive. It was like, I mean, I thought about it. I was like, oh man, I mean, if I color these guys' books, I mean, they're hardcore comic skate. I mean, I'm going to be labeled straight up comic skate. And I remember like, and I thought about, well, and then I had this epiphany where I was like, I would not put this level of thought into anyone else who tried to hire me. Like if anyone else was like, hey, I've got a budget. Do you want to work on my book? I'd be like, yeah, cool. Let's do this. Like I would not have this apprehension. So I really thought about like, what am I apprehensive of exactly? Like coloring a book? I mean, the other people are going to label me as part of this movement because I colored a book. So I was like, no, this is kind of bullshit, but so I talked to Gat and I talked to Ro and I talked to Steve, and we had a long conversation. I was like, look, guys, I'm not really interested in culture war, and I'm pretty on the liberal side of things for the most part. And, I'm just not comfortable with part of a culture war or really joining up into movements. That's kind of not my thing. And the thing is that Gat and Ro were like, look, dude, just color a comic. We don't care about anything else. Just as long as you do a good job in our comic, that's all we want from you. And I was like, I am sold on these guys. I was like, I am 100% invested. So they were like, we know you're going to get some shit. I mean, people, even comicscape people don't like us. So, I mean, if you want to use a pseudonym, so people won't know that you colored it. And I was like, and I thought about that for like maybe 2 seconds. I was like, no, I'm putting my name on this. Yeah. Because these are cool guys. I like these guys. And like, I like what I'm doing with them, and I'm proud of the work. Like if I'm to use a pseudonym, I'm more or less saying that the anti-Word Campaign people are right, that I should hide, that I should, that I should be ashamed of this. And I was like, no, dude, like if I'm doing this, I'm doing it. And honestly, I like Ro and Gat more every time I talk to them. And I'm not even, and people were accusing me of blowing smoke up their ass because I was on their show and I was just trying to like, not drown. But like, honestly, working on Vestige is one of the best creative partnerships I've ever had anywhere. I mean, I've had some good ones too. I mean, they're not the only ones, but I mean, again, they're supportive. They pay. I mean, every time I turn a page in, I don't get 1,000 like dumb corrections. I get like, oh, dude, this is awesome, man. Like, and Gat once or twice said like, I trust what you're doing. Just,
exactly.
I trust your instincts. You're the colorist,
Right.
And I mean, it's great. And I told those guys, you are good clients. And because you're good clients, I will make an effort to work with you guys on any upcoming projects. I mean, I can't predict the future. Maybe scheduling won't work for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Maybe they want to go with someone different. Maybe they just think like, oh, well, this project, I'd like to use this other guy who has a different kind of take on things. I mean, that might happen. But I was like, but again, these are good dudes. And I know like there's people who think they're the wrong people to work with, but they're great. Again, they're Ro and Gat are the same people off screen they are on screen for the most part, except they're slightly nicer to me. Ro's slightly nicer to me when off screen, even when he's really mad at me.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing, man. Same thing. My dealings with them and talking with them and hanging out with them. Same thing. Ro's super cool off air, but on air, he's gonna do what he wants to do if it's gonna make the show better or funnier. Because again, you got to think about it. They're putting on a show, right? It's something to make people entertained as well on top of it. But I know what you're saying, though. Yeah, it's about professionalism and respect for one another. And they respect the work that you're putting in. And that's what's awesome. And you respect them back. You respect them enough. You're keeping your name on it because it's beautiful work that you've also been a part of. And yeah, fuck anybody who wants to say otherwise or try to shit on you for working with them, because it's horseshit. Sorry, it is. And in the long run, you're making more people happy than you are pissing off people. You know what I mean?
That's how I feel about it. Because it's like, what is my crime here? Coloring a book?
There's no crime.
Okay, like, oh no, you colored a book for bad people. Well, the comic industry is full of bad people. Yeah. Like if I'm going to make that distinction, then well, shit. I mean, like there's not enough virtuous people in the industry for me to make a living. Yep, that's the honest. Like, if you work for mainstream comics. I mean, it doesn't take you far to figure out something that like these companies have done to somebody. I mean, it's like, again, it's out there. So it's like,
dude, I've been saying it for the longest time. I could probably do 3 hours straight of how many times I was screwed over or the horrible people in this industry who are still in their positions. I got fortunate. A lot of times there were ones who screwed me over big time who got fired or let off. And, and that it does put a smile on my face, but at the same time, I'm not wishing anything on them, you know, but good. It's like they get what they deserve. You screw people over, or you step on other people, it's going to come back to you.
Oh, yeah.
So like my whole thing is, be nice, be respectful, get the work done. And that's what people care about, you know?
Well, like when I was in Portland, like I said, there was a lot of, and I love Portland, by the way. You know, a lot of people, I kind of feel like Portland's the enemy, but Portland's great. You know, just there are some, you know, dumb people who live there, but they're a very small minority. Like if you like,
there's dumb people and good people everywhere.
I mean, if you like food or you like, I mean, there's a big metal scene there. I mean, Portland is amazing, great weather. But anyways, like there's a lot of comic people there, and most of them are good people. You know, I keep in contact with a lot of them. But like, there's a lot of like, you know, I would say like, I always call them parties, but they're just more like industry functions. Like there'll be like signings or whatnot. But like, but anyways, there's a lot of people who have like parties at their house and stuff, and they'll invite like all the comic people just to kind of network and hang out, which is super cool. But the story I'm getting at is there is an editor for one of the major comic companies in Portland who was known for, he would come to your house and intentionally break shit. He was kind of a bad drunk. Like, so he would come to your house because he knew you weren't going to not invite him if you were a comic person because he worked for this company. And he would intentionally break shit in your house because he knew you wouldn't say anything to him. He would get drunk and he would get angry. And he was known to have done this. Like, I mean, it wasn't like, this isn't me making this up. I mean, everyone's like, yeah, dude, if you invite that guy, he's going to break shit in your house, you know, in front of you. And he was known to have done that, but he knew that people wouldn't call him out in his shit because they were afraid of like, you know, not getting work. And yeah, when he parted ways for that company, I mean, he doesn't get invited to a lot of parties these days, you know, so it kind of comes back at you. But I mean, you do get that people do shit like that. You know, it's
I have stories that I've heard some of these editors, some of them got caught on it too with the Me Too movement stuff.
Oh yeah. There's,
oh yeah. Trust me, the stories that I've heard with after parties and things, some of my female friends who've been through a couple of stuff. Yeah, no, there are some evil people out there.
I would say a lot of people are like, if you work in comics, you're probably on the autism spectrum on some level. I mean, I definitely am, you know, if you're alone all day doing very technical work, I mean, it's really hard for quote unquote normal people to really put up with that lifestyle.
Right.
So there's a lot of like mixed signals and weird social interactions with comics people. Like when I was in the punk scene and like, I'd have to like talk to other people in bands and whatnot. I was always like, I had a rule where I was like, if I have 3 awkward conversations with you where like you seem like you don't want to talk to me or you're giving me kind of like a weird vibe, I'll deal with 3 and then after that we're done. You know, I'll deal with you 3 times. If it's weird, we're just not, you know, like I'm cutting you off. Obviously we're not going to work together. With comics, I would span that to 10. Yeah. You know, because there's just so many weird backwards people who are getting more weird and backwards because they're stuck alone all day. Like the first thing when I was on War Campaign, someone said, it sounds like this guy hasn't talked to another human being all day and he's letting it all out now. I'm like, that's actually correct. That's exactly what is going on right now. Yeah. That has guy sussed me out.
Yeah. No, I mean, it happens with a lot of people. I mean, again, and it depends too on the situation, like, and what you gravitate towards. Like, to me, I've always loved comics. Like I said, though, I grew up in New York. You know, I played, you know, in the streets as a kid because there weren't computers and all this shit back then. You know, not like it is now. So like,
did you have the Jack Kirby fire escape camping experience?
Not necessarily, but something close to it. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. No, but that's the thing, though, right? It's your environment too that you were put into. Like I got into comics because I had gotten a really bad fever. I had the flu. I was sick, and then one of my relatives and my brother, they went to a comic shop. They brought home a bunch of books, and I was going through them like, this is cool. These stories are awesome. And, you know, I slowly just kept doing it. So you could be active, you could be out and about, but then like, you know, if your hobby becomes more to you, because then to me, I love the aspect of storytelling. I love creating, you know, as soon as I started picking up a pencil and trying to draw myself, you know, trying to get things down. And, you know, there's something a very good feeling, that accomplishment of getting that artwork out there, you know, and it just keeps growing from that point. So yeah, and then there are people who are introverts no matter what, and comics, they gravitated towards that. It's something that they always loved. There's a safety about it, but again, it's part of it is that escapism, right?
It's like I always think about the Marvel movies, like when I'm watching like those like credits, there's like a billion people in them. It's like, what, in the last 10, 15 years, did movies finally catch up to comics? because you'll see like a billion like computer animators like in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then like you see like based on the work of like 5 guys, like. So yeah, it's like you can create entire worlds with just like pen and paper. It's almost like magic. You have the same pen and paper that everyone else does, but you made this incredible world out of it.
Exactly. And then if you find like again a good group of people and you want to create with them, I mean, there's so much cool shit that could happen. That's essentially what's kind of going on now too. It is that punk scene. It's happening again essentially. That's what indie comics became or what it's turning into.
And not only have you made this world with this pen and paper, but you've made this thing that people love for decades. I mean, again, it's like you're just making these characters that last longer than you do and change, kind of in ways you didn't expect. But I mean, you're just making like this entire insane universe with just like, like the most like basic of materials. I mean, again, you like if you're a director, you can't do that. I mean, a musician, it's kind of a different way. I mean, but yeah, I think like that's one thing I always talk about with comics. Like as much as like I get bummed out by the industry, it's like I think of mainstream comics as sacred. I think of like every time like I'm going through dollar bins, I see like I go through dollar bins and I love like buying comics from like the 80s and like the 70s. I kind of feel like old comics can't hurt me. I kind of feel like comics that are made after like I joined the industry like are kind of out to get me. It's hard to enjoy, because like
it is hard to enjoy for sure.
It's like why did I get hired to do this? Why is the writer who made this jerk to me at conventions? Why won't this editor return my emails? It's hard for me to enjoy this as a comic.
I've been through a lot of that shit with them too, and I'm friends with a number of people in the industry as well. I mean, I hung out with Jonathan Hickman a lot at a couple of cons. I got friendly with him. Like, and I've seen his view too, and other people's views on the industry, and and shit like that. Tim Seeley, I work with him when on Hack and Slash. I know how it goes. I know both sides of it, and I think a lot of people do as well. But it comes down to, like I said, it comes down to the creators, it comes down to the books, and it comes down to being good to people.
But when I go through the dollar bin, and I look at these like Marvel and DC books from the 80s, I think of kind of like like the story you told, where it's like there was some kid who was sick, whose relative got him a handful of comics, and they didn't have every issue of whatever random comics they got, just right. And they read those comics and they loved those comics. I mean, they just read that one issue of like Strike Force Moratori or whatever rando comic they got from the 80s and was like, oh, this is great, and that was it for them. I mean, that was like. And like, it's kind of weird because like, it's like, I mean, back in the day, I mean, it's kind of, one of the problems with the industry is like, there's just so much more media now. And, like when we were kids, it was like, I remember it wasn't until Nintendo got big that like kids had a TV in their room.
Right.
It wasn't until like they're monopolizing the TV with Nintendo that like kids got their own TV. And even then it wasn't like they had a million channels. So I mean, if you're a fan of G.I. Joe, you either like just watched whatever TV show was on that day at 5 and it was like an episode you didn't like, or it was, like one you'd seen before, you were just, that was your G.I. Joe for the day, or you had this comic that you can take with you and read anytime and, re-experience.
Absolutely. But like you said, though, like now, again, they have Netflix, you got all these things, you got all these amazing series and stuff, and people sit and they binge watch them. So we're competing with all of that as well. We shouldn't be, having fights with other creators across the entire industry. We should be, helping one another. We need to get the word out more. There are cool books that people want. Look at Vestige #1 graphic novel. This is coming to everybody in 2020. It's exciting. Look at all this beautiful artwork. I mean, come on, the creative teams involved in this.
And again, I worked on Vestige, so it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for me to like, act impartial. But I mean, it's great. I think if those guys who bought Vestige, you're going to be more than happy with like the product you get. And I've seen a lot of like Comicsgate stuff. I mean, even today I saw projects I never heard of before that were just amazing looking. I mean, I think like really the quality across all of like the Indiegogo Comicsgate stuff has jumped dramatically. I mean, I saw like a book today. I never heard of this artist. Let me. I think he's part of Word Campaign. God, his handle is Plaster Harris.
Okay.
And like I saw his art, and like I saw a panel he did. It was like, oh, this is amazing. Like I've never even heard of this guy. This guy is amazing.
But hold on. And that's the thing too. And that's the thing that I love about the indie scene is that, yeah, we're getting a chance to tell our stories, to do some awesome artwork that I think people are going to love, that we couldn't get into the mainstream, or we were in the mainstream and we had issues, or whatever the case is. That's what it comes down to. I mean, look at my project that's out here. This is something that I've been wanting to do forever. I finally got a chance to start to tell my story.
Oh yeah, your stuff looks good too, man.
And people are jumping all over it. And that's the thing. Like, again, with what I've been through, and a lot of people have heard it already. Like, I was 2 weeks out from working on Spider-Man for Marvel when I got screwed out of it. And I had one of the top editors tell me the exact reason. Didn't bullshit me. Said it was because Quesada's putting his friend on the book instead. I've had these moments too in my career, but I've also had stuff like hack and slash. I had that thing. My cover was blown up to like 20 feet high. They were using it as a banner for image at all the conventions. Like I've seen and touched all that stuff. Working, creating with Todd McFarlane. I mean, that's some cool stuff. Those are things like when I was a kid, I was like, no way. If you tell me that, there's no way I believe it. But it ended up happening. And now it's like I get to tell my stories. I get to create my worlds. And people are enjoying it. They're liking it. They're telling me. Because if they told me it sucked or they didn't want to read it, then like maybe I would just give up on this specific story, but I would still want to create. But I the opposite. They've been telling me they love it. They enjoy what's going on. They can't wait for the next issue or my next projects that I'm doing.
As much as it's killing me, like physically killing me, I would still color comics if I won the lottery. Like I'd do it in a different way, but like I like coloring comics. I mean, it's definitely not something that I want to do for free. But like if I was comfortable, didn't have to do it for a living, I would still do it. I would still want to make comics. I mean, it's like I love comics, even though like comics seems to hate me. Like on War Campaign the other night, I saw someone in the chat when I was rewatching it. They go, "Oh, this guy, he's a fake. He's just a guy who can't get work in mainstream comics who has come over to our side." I'm like, yeah, that's probably accurate. I'm not gonna. I am a fake. I am someone who has been thrown out of the industry for more or less, and needs work. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not going to really contest any of that. Sure,
well, you're not fake. You're being honest with people anyway. And again, you're not shitting on anyone either. Like I see, like during our conversation as well, like you're giving the benefit of the doubt to both sides, which is great. It's fine. That's cool.
I think we all have more common cause than we don't. I mean, we're all kind of getting screwed over by the same people. I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's kind of, but some people are screwed over less. And, I mean, if you're like someone who's like, who feels like they have to be a good advocate for like the mainstream industry. And it's like, you feel like, well, if I speak out about me being mistreated, I'm going to lose my livelihood. And I don't fault you for that. Even if you're kind of like someone who's trying to get brownie points by like maybe being a little bit disingenuous and coming after like, Richard Meyer or Ethan Van Sciver. I mean, I don't expect those guys to be happy with you, but I understand kind of why you're not wanting to rock the boat and why you're kind of afraid to do it. But like I was saying I got cut off because I was boring on War Campaign the other night. And again, I'll just say again, I was the one who was wrong on War Campaign. I'm the one who's screwing up the format by like trying to talk about like Marcel Duchamp and like just like my failing comic career. It's if you go to War Campaign to like for jokes and memes, I'm the one who's fucking putting a wrench in this system. So I mean, definitely I'm the one at fault for not for being out of touch. But
you just got to read the room a little bit better. That's all.
Yeah, I mean,
if you see they're having more fun, have fun with them.
Well, I'll blame them because when they brought me on, like, yeah, people want to hear about your experiences in comics, and people want to hear about it's like, no, they don't. They were telling me directly they didn't want to hear my stories anymore. But no, but I was going to say someone on there was like, oh man, this guy's a fake, man. He's just going to like if Marvel gets a hold of him tomorrow, he's going to color a Marvel book. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably right. I mean, if like Marvel, even though I've been mistreated by pretty much every company, I mean, if people have the right job, I'd do it. It's like, even though like those companies are bad, I love those characters, Yeah.
No, I agree. There's still characters that I love as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Spider-Man is not Marvel, But
it depends too. Cause like, again, you're a colorist, right?
Yeah.
You're not drawing the books. You're not writing the books. You're coloring them, and they're characters that you loved all your life as well. Oh, now, again, everyone would wish that everyone's treated, in a more or getting paid what they're worth. So yeah, to hear if you go back over there and they're underpaying you or just shit, shit pay, then yeah, it is discouraging. It is upsetting. But at the same time, you're still a freelance artist, you know, like
Yeah,
for
it's
the jobs that I still do as well. I mean, to do what I'm doing, I'm working on 3 separate books at any given time, and I do full artwork, pencil, ink, color. This book, I wrote it too. I did all the lettering, everything. Like, if someone gets this book in their hands, I'm the only person who worked on this. You know what I mean? I'm also doing the marketing of it. I'm having conversations with people. That's a shit ton of work, man. And then having to do freelance on the side as well. You know, it's tough, you know, and especially in this world today. I mean, yeah, if you're going to take jobs where they come. Now, if Marvel came to me like tomorrow, I would probably turn them down. I'll be honest. Because at this point and all the shit that I've put up with, I'd be like, you know what? I'm only available for covers, if anything.
Well,
I'm not doing interior for them.
Yeah,
you know,
I would definitely make sure that I wasn't getting screwed as much as I could.
Right.
Like I had a problem. Go ahead.
Hold on, but I'm just saying, at the same time, though, I would never apologize for what I've said to the people who fucked me over either. So that's why I know I'll probably never get those jobs, and I'm not looking for them. At the same time, like if they came knocking on my door, we'll hire you if you say sorry to Joe Quesada. I'll be like, go fuck yourself. I'll say it flat out like that because there's nothing to apologize for. I need that apology from him, you know, for ripping me off, for fucking me over, you know.
I won't argue with him that, you know,
and it comes again. It's a case by case basis as well. It's not even like I don't hate the characters. I hate the people who are involved in there now. I hate the people who are hurting. Not even hating. I dislike what they're doing.
They're overseer,
and what they're doing to the entire industry because again, comics are failing, you know, mostly because of them.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things like, you know, it's no one wants to admit like, yeah, you know, I'm the reason comics are bad. The reason, you know, I was given, you know, like I was given like a comic series and then like the numbers tanked. I mean, no one wants to admit it's their fault. They always want to find an eternal thing. But I was going to say about the work campaign thing was like, I think there were some people who were afraid that like, you know, say like Marvel will come at me through like a back channel and be like, look, man, we'll hire you to do Spider-Man. What you got to do is forsake work campaign and never work with them again. And I'd be like, no client is telling me to not work with another client. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, yeah, if I work with Doug TenNapel, not that Doug TenNapel's going to hire me, but yeah, I mean, Doug TenNapel, I think his, regardless of the dumb things he's been saying lately, I mean, one of my favorite graphic novels of all time is Creature Tech. Like, I think that's a brilliant graphic novel. But let's just say that, like, I would never, like, if someone is going to hire me but says, okay, we'll hire you, but you have to basically publicly denounce these other people. Like, no, you're wrong. You're the wrong party. If you do not want to hire me because I work with someone you don't like, you're wrong. Like, you're the asshole. I mean, again, it's like, what? So I colored War Campaign. So I will, like, you know, I will color your book too. Like, you know, it's like, I mean, do you have money? Do you treat me well? Okay, well, that's it. That's all I require. You know, like,
you're a freelance artist. You'll go where the work is, and as long as you're treated well, whatever, fine.
No, I know. So there's some people that sounds mercenary, and it's not how most people live. I mean, most people can't, you know, do that. They can't work for 2 companies simultaneously. But that's, I mean, again, it's like, okay, well, you guys don't agree, but that has nothing to do with me. And you know, whatever party is like saying that I can't work with this other person because of a personal beef, that party's wrong.
Yeah.
It's like I was saying earlier about people who block. Like, if you're blocking people who you've never interacted with, you're wrong. I mean, yeah, block someone who's coming at you and, you know, being kind of weird, sure. But if you're blocking like everyone because they like, when I started to get, like, I told this on War Campaign, but like I followed Ethan Van Sciver a long time ago, just because I liked his work. This is before there was a Comicsgate. Or at least a Comicsgate was the thing. So I mean, I followed him. I remember he followed me right back. And I was like, "Oh man, that's sweet, man. This guy."
I heard this the other night. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like next thing I know, I'm getting blocked by all these people who are saying that I did a bad thing by following this person they don't like. I'm like, how is this a thing? Like, how is this a way adults work? Exactly. And like professional adults work? Like, this is so dumb.
Yeah, that should be none of their business. Who you're friends with or acquaintances with, does it matter?
To make some value judgment because I followed someone. It's again, like, I mean, you probably agree with this too. It's like, you don't agree with every single person in Comicsgate. The fact that you follow someone on Twitter doesn't mean that, like, you know, you think that they do no wrong. I mean, you can follow people and be friends with people and still disagree. You know, you don't have to.
It's about being human. And like I said, the only time that I would do shit where like I would block someone or disassociate with them totally is if they are going after me personally, whatever. When it crosses the line, basically, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my thing is like, you can block anyone you want. If you want to block 30,000 people, do it. It's only going to hurt you. If someone's being dangerous or real being a nuisance, sure, block them. I mean, just whatever. You don't have to deal with that. But if you're blocking again 30,000 engaged customers that you've never interacted with just because you don't like the person they follow, I mean, that harms you. You're the asshole. Like it is.
The only people I think I've ever blocked were maybe about 2 or 3 people, and it's because of their vulgarity or their just pure hatred. When you see someone is that super negative, and it's not even anything in particular. You just see how nasty they are, and they're looking to fight with anyone.
Well, before I came out as the colorist and vestige, I actually asked them like for a list of people who were kind of problems, and I got maybe a list of like half a dozen people. And I checked every single person, and like I blocked like Rimfamous and people like that, because as far as I could tell, they didn't really add anything. All they did was just argue with people all day on Twitter. I'm like, I don't need that. They're not professionals. They're not going to pay me to do anything. All they're going to do is just like fight with me to like gain a bigger platform for themselves. So I mean, okay, I blocked all them. Just like there's nothing they have that I need, and vice versa.
Yeah, they see it the other way too. They'll just go on your page if they don't see your numbers are big enough or your campaign isn't big enough. They won't even deal with you. That's what I've seen how they. Because there's even someone who used to be part of CG, who used to promote books, and people were fighting with them, and vice versa. Everyone found out what his true intentions were, and he was upset that he was losing money, potential money that he could have made, and he started fighting with everyone else. Now, I called him out and his friend out, and I got a video response back. Why? Because his video was to try to hurt me, since he had a bigger platform than I did on YouTube. I think even his followers on Twitter. So anyone who helped me, if you're still friends with him and following him, he made the video to say, don't work with Vinny, or don't support him in his own roundabout way, right? Until I responded in kind, and I put him in his place. He had nothing to say to me after that, because I called him out on all of his bullshit, because he tried to spread lies as well. I called him out, and he had nothing to say. Then other people saw it, and they stuck up for me, because they know how I am. I'm to the point. I'm there for people. I deliver fast. People like my quality. They like how I treat them, and that is what that's what stays true. He couldn't say anything, so what did he do? He went back to trying to fight with the big names again, right? I only got blocked by him later on because I did. I won the drawing competition for drawing in court, or drawing in backhold, right? The war campaign one.
Okay.
So that's when I got my block, because I won that. So it's like, oh, go after yourself. Like I wasn't big enough. I wasn't big enough to fight with. But now that I'm actually, I got some notoriety. He wanted to say "f you" to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say personally, my goal is to color comics to support myself. So anything you see me doing is going to be in service of that. Any of this other drama, if it's not helping me color comics, I mean, I don't need it. It's not a.
But yeah, so
again, who cares? But it's.
I'm sorry. A dead horse anyway. It doesn't really matter. The point is, we want people to be kind to one another. So keep supporting one another. If you like whatever books you like, awesome. There's something out there for everyone, and there's no need to shoot anybody else for it. But again, if it's hurting the industry or whatever, and you don't like the taste for it, then don't buy those books. There's other places to go. There's other cool creators, and that's what we're here for.
But CG is seen to the outs. I mean, I guess to the more mainstream anti-CG forces. I mean, people see CG as a negative thing, right? Outside of CG, and I think that's changing, because when I live in a very small area in Appalachia, right? And there's a couple of people who live in my area. There's one guy who used to write Harley Quinn and Green Arrow. I'm sorry, and the other guy who lives in my area is Sean Langley, who does stuff for Alterna. He works with NASA. I mean, I don't know if you know Sean. I don't know him real well. He seems like a nice guy, but every time we're at a little convention together, I mean, people come up to him and they're always asking him questions about Comicsgate, and they're like super stoked, like, oh man, I saw this thing, or I saw that thing. And I mean, I'm always trying to get War Campaign to go to conventions, because I think people want to meet Comicsgate people. I mean, Comicsgate makes people happy. They feel included. They feel part of something. I mean, I think people want to, it's a joy. People want to meet the people in Comicsgate. It's and again, I'm always happy to meet people who like my work, who like, people want to talk to me about Star Trek or Mars Attacks. Yeah, it's great.
Very, very clear. The only people who are really calling CG Nazis and fighting with them are people from the mainstream, the people who want to continue destroying the industry or whatever they're doing.
Or a very small people.
Yes, whatever. But what I'm saying is the fans themselves, if they hear CG, a lot of them don't know what it is. And they look at it as just the indie scene anyway. So, and it's just kind of like, to them, it's like a bigger umbrella for a cooler group of indie guys. You know what I mean? Guys and girls.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've seen it as, how fans talk about it. But for the most part, they really don't know. It's more a thing of, oh, cool. There's a place that you guys are going to. It's mostly Indiegogo, where you could find new books and cool books and great people and creators. Everyone has they have these YouTube channels. They're helping one another. That's what's coming off to the fans. It's the smaller group of those louder imbeciles who are trying to make everything look negative. And it's far from the truth. Because I know when I first got into it, I mean, I don't want to go on too much because I know Red had started his stream, but I just want to make this point. When I first got into this, CG was mostly looked at as hateful from anyone in the industry, right? If you're not part of it, everyone was tainted by it, because I had like other indie creators who, when they saw that I did an interview on John Mayland's channel, they went, "You're Comicsgate? What the hell? Don't you know they're all Nazis and this and that?" I said, "What are you talking about?" And this is people, again, that I've known for years, that I was friends with. I went, "You don't know what you're talking about. Nazis?" I said, there is literally a great creator who happens to be female and black. Her name's Crystal McGee. She does a great book. She's part of Comicsgate. How are we racist if there's a woman in there who happens to be black? Now tell me, how is that racist? Or another female creator, or someone who's not white. They're involved in here. There's Spanish. There's Asian. You name it. There's so many different people in here. Tell me, how is this being a Nazi? What's going on? I said, I told the guy, I said, before you look into just labeling people, why don't you do your research? Why don't you listen to it? Why don't you talk to some people who are involved in it? You'll learn that no one is a Nazi. It's bullshit.
Well, we can both agree that Just Some Guy is a white supremacist.
I don't know who. I don't know everybody and all their stories.
No, you didn't hear about that? Just Some Guy. He's one of my favorite kind of Comicsgate YouTube guys, and he's a black guy from Chicago that I guess it was called a white supremacist because he criticized that Ignited book. And he had a big thing about it where he was like, "Yeah, I'm a black guy from Chicago. How do you think I'm a white supremacist?" It's because the person who accused him just saw everyone in CG as incels, right? And didn't do their research. I mean, it's dumb. I mean, again, it's 2 seconds of checking into Comicsgate will show you exactly how dumb of a thing that is. It's just people who like comics. People want better comics.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. Because we are all good people. It's just, start talking about the books, start pushing the good about everything, and keep supporting what's awesome to you. And that's all it comes down to. Let the mainstream, if they're in a sinking ship that's still going down, let them go down. Doesn't matter. There are other people out there. There are other ships that people want to jump on. That we're all having a good time. And
I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't want mainstream comics to go away. I mean, I love Marvel and DC. I wish they would talk to us and we could help them. I mean, we could, like, here's how crowdfunding works. Here's how to treat your fans. I mean, here's how to keep from getting screwed.
Yeah, but again, I think they have to completely go under for them to rebuild again. Because again, I don't want to see those characters go either. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, no, I'm not groaning at you. I'm groaning at just them. It's like I can't save them. I'd like to. I can't do it. Well,
that's the thing. We can't save them because the people who they have in charge calling the shots, they're the ones who are steering the ship into the giant iceberg.
Oh yeah, they'd rather steer the ship in the iceberg because that means they're still the captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they don't. I mean,
I'm still the captain. There is no iceberg. That's how they're seeing it. We
Yeah.
just crashed. We hit it. We're gushing gallons and gallons of water per second. Nope, I don't see it. We're doing good.
Well, I'm the captain, and I can tell you that there was no way the iceberg was unavoidable. There was no way to steer around the iceberg. That's kind of what it is. I mean, but I think I've said this a little bit on Word Campaign. I think I'm the vanguard. I think people are looking at me. I mean, again, maybe I'm over evaluating my importance, but I think people are looking to me to see how it works out. Like how someone who's about my level, who works with Comicsgate, how it works out for them. Like what kind of shit I get, from both sides. So far, zero. So far no one's come at me negatively. I've only gotten support and love from the Comicsgate community, which I mean, I did not expect, this much support and this little negativity. So far it's going great. Although now that I've said that, I'll jinx myself, but
yeah, but I think that's the artist side of you too, because there's a lot of skepticism when we see shit like that.
Well, it's also the comic side of me going, I know they're sharpening their knives, they're just not, they're not making themselves known yet. I mean, that's one of the nice things about Word Campaigns. Like, oh yeah, come at me because I worked on a Word Campaign book. See how well that works out. See how much you like having dick memes made of you.
Yeah.
But again, I've got nothing but positivity. I mean, I got maybe since doing Word Campaign, the show, I've got maybe 100 new Twitter followers.
That's awesome, man.
And everyone, and I've gotten a lot of notes where like, hey man, we respect you for hanging in there on the Word Campaign show. Yeah, it's like people are like, yeah, you didn't do as bad as you could have been, which is like kind of like a backhanded compliment. But people have been going through my Twitter feed and like, retweeting and liking like old artwork that I'd done, and I mean, again, it's nothing but love, nothing but positivity. No one's,
and it's going to keep going that way. I think the only way that I see people really talking shit about creators who jump ship or whatever is someone who has a giant following, somebody who's a really big name in the industry. If they decide to come over, that's when I think they'll try to have those big fights. I think lower level guys or people that aren't really known, if they do shit like that, it doesn't matter. To me, honestly, I don't think it matters. I know they keep warning you, you're going to get a lot of shit. You're going to get a lot of shit. I honestly doubt it. I really do. Unless you're very, very vocal and unless you're really close to some of the people who've been attacked or whatever or fought with them.
Like, I know Donald got a bunch of shit. I don't know. Maybe they just don't care about colorists. I mean, like my attitude was like, what they gonna do? Hire me less? I mean, what are they gonna do to me? Like, oh, we'll never hire you again. Well, you're not hiring me now. Right. Great.
Well, that's why I didn't care to tell my, story about, some of the people who fucked me over. Some of them I'll still keep secret because out of just kind of respect to certain things, or if someone had helped me out in the past and then changed it to later on. But it depends. It is a case by case thing. But people who have flat out fucked me over or ripped me off, I'm fine to call them by name, and I'm fine to let fans know about it, because those are the shitheads that continually destroy the industry on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
other than that, but like I'm saying, other than that, again, I'm not looking to fight with people. I don't really care. Do what you got to do, whatever.
Yeah, I've been floating that there's a really big industry person that I'm going to do an interview with that umbrella guy about. That I've talked to him about doing this because he's done a lot of research on this person's company. So it's, I'm not going to say I'll never shit talk people, but part of it's just the fact that I don't want to like have to talk about these people all the time. I mean, I definitely think I should warn certain people like, oh yeah, if you see a guy on Twitter named Nate Cosby who's looking for new talent every week, yeah, there's a reason for that. He's a bad person, like that kind of thing. But
this guy, Ryan's just breaking your balls a little bit just because of what you said. That's all.
Oh, Ryan. Okay.
Yeah, no one's gonna insult you. You're good.
Oh yes. Sorry, Ryan.
He's only playing with you. He's been kind of funny on the side. Yeah, I want to thank everyone in the chat as well who stopped by, who've been listening, and if you're gonna watch this afterwards, thank you for stopping by. Just remember to subscribe, ring the bell, do all that cool stuff. Again, I'm still growing stuff. I'm gonna have more interviews with people. I don't mean to cut you off either. It's just I need to end this soon because I know Red's doing a stream and I don't want to take away from that.
Oh, no point. I mean, I'll talk all night about how the industry screwed me over if you let me. So good to cut me off.
I'm a talker myself as well when I get into things. So we've been going for like 2 hours and 20 minutes now. I think that's a really good time. Yeah,
I mean, just follow me on Twitter. Just say hi. that's if you want to help me out. I mean, that's what you can do.
Yeah, definitely. Stop by. Jump on his Twitter. You could find him through mine as well because I posted about this conversation. So the links are there. You could find them. You could find Jason there, or just type in Jason Lewis in the search, and he should come up.
Yeah, and 1,000 other people from Wales will come up because apparently everyone in Wales is named Lewis.
Oh, geez. Well, they got to look for your logo, which was the shot of your face.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, again, look at Work Campaign. Look at, I'll come up somewhere. You'll find me.
Yeah, Jason will pop up. Again, jump on Vestige as well. This book is doing absolutely amazing. The work on here is incredible. I mean, shit, look at these colors. Yeah, man. Everyone's jumping on it anyway. Ethan did one of the covers. Yeah, this is a beautiful book.
Oh yeah, and that's again, look at that, $71,000. Like a few years ago, people thought that was crazy. I mean, a few years ago, it was like you're lucky to make like $5,000 on a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And Comicsgate, I mean, again, you see people who have like 1 million followers and like have top-notch people working on their projects who can't make half this. Like,
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it's insane, man.
Well, really, again, Vinny, thank you for having me on. I apologize for talking over you and Red. I'm kind of new to this YouTube thing, so sorry. I don't talk to a lot of people during the day. It's me and my cat.
It's all good, man. No worries. Like I said, we've had time to talk back and forth. It's all good. I know I've talked over you a little bit here and there as well.
I feel like we had a good conversation.
Yeah, it's been a good conversation. A lot of passion on all sides. But at the end of the day, we're all about the books. We're all about making people happy, and that's what it comes down to. So keep buying comics, support all these great books. Keep an eye out for new conversations. I might be doing kind of like showing people how I work as well, because I have a cover I'm doing for the collected version of Through the Woods, which is coming in 2020. It's going to be over 92 pages. Yeah, man, it's the first story that I did for crowdfunding. It's a ghost story. There's going to be a lot more about that coming soon. My little logo is actually one of the main characters of the book. Kind of his return. He's kind of in ghost form there. But yeah, man, it's going to be awesome. I have a test copy of the book that was actually printed, which I'm super stoked about. I might be posting that on Twitter pretty soon, probably after Thanksgiving, because I know right now everything's kind of crazy, and people are running all around. So, but yeah, after the holidays into the new year, I'm going to be launching that campaign. City of Venus is still active. It's in demand. If you order it, I'm going to either mail it same day or next day, unless it's the weekend, then it'll be the following Monday. But yeah, and I urge people to definitely jump on the featured perk, which is the Art of Vinny Volume 2. It's exclusive to that campaign, to City of Venus. It's the first one you'll see up there. Again, super high quality, super thick pages, beautiful gloss cover. Yeah, you guys are going to dig it. But I want to thank Jason again. It was a cool conversation. Everyone in chat, you guys are awesome. Thank you again for stopping in. Sorry if I didn't get to everybody. Again, this conversation's been going pretty strong and pretty great. So again, thanks everyone. Remember, be kind to one another, and go jump over to Red Gaze because he's live right now. Later.
Bye.